The room is quiet. The world outside has finally surrendered to the night. But here, in the stillness, a storm is raging. Perhaps you can feel it now, a silent turbulence behind your eyes. Your body is tired, craving rest, yet your mind refuses to yield. It replays conversations, dissects mistakes, and rehearses worries for a tomorrow that has not yet arrived. The ceiling above becomes a blank screen onto which the mind projects its endless reel of anxieties, plans, and regrets. This experience, this feeling of being wired and tired, is not just a personal failing or a simple case of insomnia. It is a symptom of our time, a quiet epidemic of the soul. We live in a world that never truly sleeps, a world of constant connection, constant demand, and constant noise. Our phones buzz, our calendars are full, and our minds have been trained to believe that their value lies in their productivity, in their ceaseless motion. We have, in a sense, forgotten how to press the off switch. The exhaustion we feel is not merely physical. It is a deep, spiritual weariness, a soul fatigue born from the relentless pressure to be more, to have more, and to do more. But what if the solution is not to fight this restlessness, not to force the mind into submission? What if the path to peace is not a battle, but a gentle return? This journey we are about to embark upon is not about finding a magic pill for sleep. It is an invitation, an opportunity to create the inner conditions for rest, to perform a gentle reset on your emotional software. We will turn to the timeless wisdom of the Buddhist path, not as a complex religion, but as a practical and profound psychology of the mind. It offers a set of tools, compassionate and clear, to help us understand the nature of our own inner storm, to see the waves of thought and emotion for what they are, and to find the calm, silent depths that lie beneath. Sleep, in this understanding, is not an escape from life, but a sacred space for healing. It is a chance to let go of the day, to release the burdens we carry, and to return to the quiet, peaceful essence of our own being. You don't need to do anything now, except to listen. Allow these words to wash over you, without striving, without effort. Simply breathe and give yourself permission to begin. Let us begin by gently turning our attention inward to the landscape of the mind. For many of us, this inner world is not a peaceful place. It is a landscape weathered by a constant, low-grade storm. It is not always a storm of crashing thunder and dramatic lightning, but more often a persistent, churning grey sky, a relentless wind that keeps everything unsettled. This is the storm of the modern mind. Take a moment to feel it, not with judgment, but with a quiet curiosity. It has a particular texture, a unique rhythm. It is the hum of anxiety about the future, a vibration that lives in the chest and stomach, a constant companion that asks, what if? It is the heavy cloak of the past, woven from threads of regret and nostalgia, a weight on the shoulders that whispers, if only, and it is the fractured light of the present moment, a light shattered into 1,000 pieces by the endless demands on our attention. The storm's first wind blows from the future. We live so much of our lives in this imagined realm, a place of endless planning and preparation. Our minds build intricate architectures of expectation, designing every detail of how a project should unfold, how a conversation must go, how our lives ought to look in 1 year, or 5, or 10. We become authors of fictions, and then we suffer when reality fails to follow our script. This constant projection into the future is exhausting. It is the source of the tension in your jaw, the tightness in your neck, the shallow nature of your breath. The body believes it is in a state of perpetual readiness for a challenge that never quite arrives. Because the challenge is a phantom, a ghost created by the mind itself. We are preparing for 100 possible catastrophes, 1,000 potential failures, and in doing so, we sacrifice the only reality we ever truly have. This present moment. The future becomes a source of endless debt, borrowing peace and energy from the now to pay for a tomorrow that may never come to pass as we imagine it. The second wind of this storm blows from the opposite direction, from the land of the past. The past is a museum of memories, and we are its tireless curators. We wander its halls at night, polishing our trophies of past glories and reopening the wounds of old defeats. We are haunted by the ghosts of our own making, the specters of words we wish we hadn't said, and actions we wish we had taken. Regret is a particularly heavy stone, one we choose to pick up again and again, long after the event has passed. We tell ourselves that by reliving our mistakes, we can somehow learn from them, but more often, we are simply re-traumatizing ourselves, reinforcing the neural pathways of shame and sadness. The mind gets caught in these loops, these well-worn grooves of memory, and they become a sorrowful lullaby that keeps us from the deep, dreamless sleep of true rest. We are trying to fall asleep, but we are anchored to a past that no longer exists anywhere but inside our own head. And while we are buffeted by these winds from the past and future, we are drenched by the cold rain of a fractured present. Our attention, our most precious resource, has been commodified. It is bought and sold by corporations, hijacked by algorithms, and pulled in a million different directions at once. The phone in your pocket or on your nightstand is a portal to the entire world's anxieties. A single notification can pull you out of a state of calm and into a cycle of outrage, comparison, or desire. We scroll through the curated lives of others, a constant stream of manufactured perfection that often makes our own reality feel dull and inadequate. This is the heart of materialism's subtle poison. It is not just the desire for things, but the gnawing feeling of not enough, not successful enough, not beautiful enough, not happy enough. We are taught to look for our wholeness in the next purchase, the next promotion, the next relationship. We live in a state of perpetual seeking, a hungry ghost chasing a satisfaction that is, by its very nature, fleeting. This external focus creates a profound internal poverty, a sense of being a stranger in our own home, in our own life. This feeling is compounded by a strange and painful paradox, the loneliness of hyperconnectivity. We have hundreds, perhaps thousands of friends and followers, yet we can feel utterly alone. We have substituted the depth of true human connection for the breadth of digital contact. We present a polished, edited version of ourselves to the world, and we consume the polished, edited versions of others. This performance creates a hidden layer of stress, the fear of being found out, of our messy, imperfect reality being exposed. There is a deep, unmet longing in the human heart for authentic presence, for the feeling of being seen and accepted for who we truly are, without filters or facades. When this need is unmet, it creates a hollow ache, a sense of isolation that can be felt most acutely in the silence of the night. When all the digital distractions have finally faded away, the storm inside is, in many ways, the sound of this unmet longing. There is an old story that speaks to our condition. A man was in a panic, riding his horse furiously from one end of the village to the other. He looked distraught, his face a mask of worry. He would stop people on the road, shouting with great urgency, "Have you seen my horse? I have lost my horse. He is a beautiful, strong steed, and I must find him." The villagers would look at him, utterly bewildered. They would look at the frantic man, and then at the magnificent animal directly beneath him, the very horse he was riding. But the man was so consumed by the story of his loss, so lost in the panic of his search, that he could not feel the strong, steady presence of the creature that was carrying him the entire time. We are, in many ways, that man on the horse. We are searching desperately for peace. We search for it in a quieter job, a bigger house, a more understanding partner, or a far-flung vacation. We download meditation apps, buy self-help books, and listen to podcasts, all in a frantic search for this elusive thing called inner peace. We are convinced it is out there somewhere, a treasure to be found, a destination to be reached. We are so consumed by the story of our stress, so identified with the storm in our minds, that we fail to notice that which is carrying us through it all. We fail to feel the steady, quiet presence of our own awareness. The capacity for peace is not something you need to acquire. It is not something you have lost. It is the very ground of your being, the horse you are already riding. The storm of modern life, with its anxieties, its materialism, and its loneliness, is powerful, but it is a storm passing through a sky. It is not the sky itself. By seeing this storm clearly, by naming its winds and its rains without judgment, we take the first step toward realizing that we are the sky, not the storm. We are the vast, open, and peaceful awareness in which all of this is happening. And from that recognition, from that simple shift in identity, our entire journey home begins. Having looked at the storm within our minds, the next step in our journey is not to fight it, but to understand its very nature. In the Buddhist tradition, this begins with a gentle, honest, and profoundly compassionate acknowledgement of a fundamental truth of existence. This truth is captured in a single, ancient word, dukkha. When translated into English, dukkha is often rendered as suffering. This is an unfortunate translation because the word suffering feels heavy, dramatic, and absolute. It brings to mind images of tragedy, despair, and intense pain. And while dukkha certainly includes these things, its meaning is far broader, more subtle, and infinitely more relatable to our everyday lives. To understand dukkha is not to adopt a pessimistic view of the world. It is the opposite. It is like a master physician making a clear and precise diagnosis. It is an act of supreme kindness, for we cannot heal an illness until we have first understood it. So, let us set aside the heavy cloak of the word suffering, and instead think of dukkha as a pervasive sense of unsatisfactoriness. It is the background hum of discontent, the subtle feeling that something is not quite right, that something is missing. It is the inherent friction we feel between our desires and the way reality actually is. It is the feeling of being slightly off balance, of seeking a solid ground that is never quite found. This is a universal experience, not a personal failure. To acknowledge dukkha is to acknowledge our shared humanity. The teachings point to three distinct, yet interwoven, types of this unsatisfactoriness. The first type is the most obvious, the one we all know intimately. It is called dukkha dukkha, which can be translated as the pain of pain. This is the raw, undeniable experience of physical and mental distress. It is the pain of a headache, the ache of a weary body, the sting of a cruel word. It is the grief that comes with losing a loved one, the anxiety that churns in the stomach before an important meeting, the loneliness of a quiet evening, the frustration of being stuck in traffic. These are the sharp, clear instances of discomfort and pain that punctuate our lives. They are unavoidable aspects of having a human body and a human mind. No amount of positive thinking can prevent us from ever feeling sick, or sad, or disappointed. This first layer of dukkha is simply a given of the human condition, a fundamental truth of our existence. The second type of dukkha is more subtle and perhaps more pervasive in our modern culture of pleasure-seeking. It is called viparinama dukkha, the unsatisfactoriness of change. This is the stress and anxiety that is secretly woven into our pleasant experiences. It arises from one simple, inescapable fact: everything changes. Nothing lasts. This form of dukkha is the bittersweet taste of happiness. Think of a perfect, golden sunset. In the very moment of appreciating its beauty, there is often a tiny, subtle pang of knowing that it is fleeting, that the colors will soon fade into darkness. Think of a joyous vacation. Even in the midst of the fun, the mind often drifts to the fact that it will end, that we will have to return to our daily routines. This is the hidden anxiety in clutching a loved one's hand, knowing that this moment, too, shall pass. The happiness that depends on external conditions is, by its very nature, unstable. We spend so much of our energy trying to grasp and hold on to these pleasant moments, trying to freeze them in time, but it is like trying to hold water in our hands. The tighter we squeeze, the faster it slips through our fingers. This clinging to pleasure, this resistance to the natural law of change, is a profound source of our inner turmoil. It keeps us on a restless treadmill, constantly chasing the next pleasant experience to replace the one that has just faded away. The third and most profound type is called sankhara dukkha. This is the all-pervasive unsatisfactoriness of conditioned existence itself. This is the most difficult to grasp because it is not tied to a specific painful event or a pleasant one ending. It is the background static of our lives, so constant that we often don't even notice it. It is the inherent vulnerability and unreliability of our moment-to-moment experience. It comes from being a self that is made up of constantly changing parts, a changing body, changing feelings, changing perceptions, changing thoughts, and a flickering consciousness. There is nothing solid or permanent to hold on to. This self that we work so hard to protect, to promote, and to gratify is itself a temporary collection of processes. This creates a deep, underlying sense of insecurity. It is the friction of being alive, the low-grade stress of needing to maintain this fragile sense of self against the ceaseless flow of life. It is that feeling of being a boat tossed on the ocean, never finding a permanent, unmoving harbor. It is the fundamental not-enoughness that drives so much of our striving. This is the root disease, while the other two forms of dukkha are often its most obvious symptoms. To illustrate how we interact with these truths, the Buddha offered a simple, powerful parable, the story of the two arrows. Imagine you are walking through a forest, and suddenly, you are struck in the arm by an arrow. The initial pain is sharp, real, and unavoidable. This is the first arrow. It represents the unavoidable dukkha of life, the illness, the loss, the accident, the disappointment. These first arrows will come to all of us, in one form or another. It is simply part of the journey. But what do most of us do next? Instead of just tending to the wound of the first arrow, we take out a second arrow and we shoot it into ourselves in the very same spot. This second arrow is our reaction to the first. It is the storm of our mind. It is the voice that says, "Why me? This is terrible. I can't believe this happened. My life is ruined. It's unfair." It is the anger, the fear, the self-pity, the obsessive thinking, the blame. The pain from the first arrow is real, but the suffering, the deep, prolonged anguish, comes almost entirely from the second arrow, and the third, and the fourth. which we keep firing into ourselves. The entire path of inner peace, the entire practice of emotional resetting, is not about learning to dodge all the first arrows of life. That is an impossible fantasy. The practice is about learning not to fire the second arrow. It is about creating a space of wisdom and compassion between the initial painful event and our reaction to it. To see dukkha, to understand it in these three forms, is to finally see the first arrow clearly for what it is. It is just an event. It is painful, yes, but it is neutral in its meaning. It is our mind that weaves a story of tragedy and despair around it, firing that second arrow of reaction. By acknowledging the reality of dukkha, we are not making life worse. We are making it infinitely simpler. We stop fighting with reality. We stop pretending that life should be free of all discomfort. This acceptance is not passive resignation. It is an act of profound courage and clarity. It is to say, yes, this hurts. This is a moment of pain. And in that simple, honest acknowledgement, we create the space to breathe. We create the space to tend to the wound. Instead of making it deeper, we begin to see that while pain is inevitable, suffering is, to a very large extent, optional. This is the great liberation offered by this first, honest diagnosis. And it leads us to the next, most crucial question. If the second arrow is the true source of our suffering, what, then, is the cause of the second arrow? Where does this impulse to react, to cling, and to resist truly come from? If we have gently and honestly diagnosed our condition as dukkha, the pervasive unsatisfactoriness that hums beneath the surface of our lives, and if we have seen that our own reactions, the second arrows, are its greatest amplifiers, then our journey inward must now become a quiet investigation. We must ask the fundamental question: what is the origin of this reaction? What is the root of the second arrow? What feeds the storm in our minds? The Buddhist tradition offers a clear and profound answer, not as a judgment, but as another compassionate insight. The origin of our deepest suffering, it says, has a name. That name is tanha. Tanha is an ancient Pali word that translates literally as thirst. It is a perfect metaphor. It is not a gentle preference or a mild wish. It is a deep, primal, burning thirst. It is a compelling urge, a craving that demands to be satisfied. It is the engine of our restlessness, the force that propels us to grasp at one thing and push away another. This thirst is the unseen architect of our inner world, building our anxieties and our fleeting joys. It is the very fuel of the second arrow. This thirst, this tanha, manifests in three primary ways, and we can observe all of them in the quiet laboratory of our own mind, especially as we lie in bed, trying to find rest. The first and most obvious form is the thirst for sense pleasures. This is the craving for everything that feels good. It is the desire for a pleasant sight, a beautiful sound, a fragrant smell, a delicious taste, or a comfortable physical sensation. In our modern world, this thirst is amplified 1,000 times over. It is the craving for the sweet food in the refrigerator, the desire to keep scrolling through an entertaining video feed, the longing for the comfort of a warm bed that makes us resist getting up in the morning. It is the thirst for praise, for validation, for the notification that tells us we have been liked. The problem, the teachings make clear, is not the pleasure itself. A beautiful sunset is not the problem. The pleasure of a good meal is not the problem. The problem is the thirst. It is the clinging, the desperate hope that the pleasure will last forever, and the deep, inevitable disappointment when it fades. As all things do, this thirst turns life into a frantic chase for the next pleasant hit, leaving us exhausted and perpetually unsatisfied. because no sensation is permanent. The second form of thirst is the mirror image of the first. It is the thirst for unpleasant things to go away. This is the craving for non-existence, a powerful force of aversion. It is the energy behind our anger, our frustration, our irritation, and our fear. Just as we crave for pleasure to continue, we crave for pain to cease. Immediately, it is the voice that screams, "I can't stand this feeling of anxiety," or "I wish this person would just be quiet," or "this ache in my body has to stop." This is a struggle, a fight against the reality of the present moment. We are at war with our own experience. When we are caught in this thirst of aversion, we expend enormous amounts of energy resisting what is already here. This resistance is the very essence of the second arrow. The initial discomfort is the first arrow, but our violent mental and emotional campaign to annihilate that discomfort is the second, third, and fourth arrows, the ones that cause the real, prolonged suffering. We believe that if we can just eliminate the unpleasantness, we will find peace. But this battle itself is the very opposite of peace. The third form of thirst is the deepest, the most subtle, and the most powerful of all. It is the thirst for becoming, the thirst for existence. This is the profound, ego-driven craving to be a solid, separate, and permanent self. It is the desire to be someone. It is the fuel for our ambition, our need to be right, our defense of our opinions, and our attachment to our identity, our story. I am a successful person. I am an anxious person. I am a good person. We cling to these labels, these mental constructions, because they give us a sense of solid ground in a constantly shifting world. This thirst for a self is what makes us take everything so personally. When someone criticizes our opinion, it feels like an attack on our very being because we have identified with that opinion. This deep craving for a permanent self is what lies at the heart of our fear of death, our fear of insignificance. It is this thirst that keeps us locked into our own personal drama, forever polishing the statue of me, defending its territory, and worrying about its future. To constantly try and satisfy these three thirsts is like being lost in a desert and trying to quench your thirst by drinking salt water. For a brief, deceptive moment, the liquid feels cool in your throat, and it seems to offer relief. But the salt within it only draws more water from your body, leaving you even more dehydrated, even more desperately thirsty than before. And so you drink more, and the cycle continues, each drink deepening the craving and bringing you closer to ruin. This is our predicament. We chase a promotion, and for a moment, the thirst for becoming is quenched. But soon, the satisfaction fades, and the thirst returns, now demanding an even bigger achievement. We distract ourselves with an hour of entertainment to avoid our anxiety, and for a moment, the thirst of aversion is sated. But the anxiety returns, often stronger than before, and we need a longer, more potent distraction. We are caught in a feedback loop of suffering, driven by a thirst that can never, by its very nature, be permanently quenched. There is a powerful old story that illustrates this self-imposed trap. A hunter who wanted to catch monkeys would take a coconut, make a small hole in it, just large enough for a monkey's open hand to fit through, and place some sticky, sweet rice inside. He would then tie the coconut to the base of a tree. Soon, a monkey would come along, smell the rice, and slip its hand into the coconut. It would grasp the rice, making a fist. But now, with its hand clenched into a fist, it could not pull it out of the small hole. The monkey would pull and shriek, growing more and more frantic, but it would not be able to get free. The hunter could then simply walk up and capture the trapped monkey. What is truly trapping the monkey? It is not the coconut. It is not the hunter. The only thing trapping the monkey is its own clenched fist. The monkey's freedom lies in a simple, single act: to let go of the rice. But its craving, its attachment to the prize, is so overwhelming that it cannot bring itself to open its hand. We are that monkey. The sticky rice is all the things our ego craves: our cherished opinions, our plans for the future, our resentments from the past, our desire for pleasure, our aversion to pain. We grasp them so tightly in the fist of our mind, believing they are essential. It is this very act of grasping, of clinging, that keeps us tethered, that traps us in our own suffering. The hunter is simply life itself, the inevitable arrival of change, loss, and difficulty. Freedom is always available to us, in every single moment. That freedom is the ability to unclench the mind, to let go of the attachment. But why is this simple act so incredibly difficult? If we can see that clinging is the source of our pain, why can't we just stop? This leads us to look even deeper at the very mechanisms of the mind itself, and at the powerful illusion that tells us we can and should control it all. Having discovered that the root of our inner turmoil is a deep, burning thirst, a clinging and a craving known as tanha, our logical mind immediately proposes a solution. The solution is, of course, to fight. It is to declare war on this thirst. We tell ourselves, I must stop being so anxious. I will force this anger to go away. Or, I need to get control of my negative thoughts. We believe that our mind is a disobedient subordinate, and that with enough willpower, with enough force, we can wrestle it into submission. This approach feels heroic, proactive, and strong. It is, however, the very source of our exhaustion. The path to inner peace does not begin with a battle. It begins with the profound realization that the war itself is the problem. This is the great and freeing wisdom of understanding the illusion of control. Consider for a moment the nature of your own body. Your heart is beating. Your lungs are breathing. Your cells are dividing. These processes are happening all on their own, without any conscious effort from you. You do not need to command your heart to beat. And indeed, you could not command it to stop. Now, consider your mind. The mind, in its most basic function, produces thoughts. That is what it does. Thoughts arise, unbidden, like clouds forming in the sky. To expect your mind to be a perpetually blank, empty space is as unrealistic as expecting the sky to be forever free of clouds. It is to misunderstand the mind's fundamental nature. The problem is not that thoughts appear. The problem is that we believe every thought that appears is a command we must obey, an enemy we must fight, or a truth we must analyze. We have mistakenly identified ourselves with the endless chatter of the mind, and so we feel responsible for controlling it. The first step towards freedom is the gentle recognition that you are not your thoughts. You are the silent, aware space in which the thoughts arise and pass away. This is not a failure on your part. It is not your fault that your mind thinks. It is simply its nature. There is a strange paradox in the mind's operation, a secret trick it plays on us when we try to use force. Let us try a small experiment right now. For the next few moments, I want you to try, with all your effort, not to think about a large, white bear. Do not imagine its thick fur, its black nose, or its powerful paws. Under no circumstances should you allow the thought of a white bear to enter your mind. What happened? Of course, the mind is immediately flooded with images and ideas of a white bear. The very act of trying not to think about something requires the mind to keep the concept of that thing active in order to check if you are succeeding. The effort to suppress a thought is like pouring gasoline on a fire. The struggle itself is the fuel. This is why telling yourself to just stop worrying is a recipe for more worry. The mind hears worry and zooms in on it. The energy of resistance gives the thought power and significance. It is a battle you can never win, because your own weapon, your attention, is what gives the enemy its strength. Imagine you are sitting beside a beautiful, clear lake, but today, the surface of the lake is turbulent, filled with ripples and waves from the wind. You wish to see the smooth stones at the bottom, so you decide you must calm the water. You wade into the lake and begin to use your hands, trying to press the ripples down, to flatten the waves. What is the result of your effort? Every frantic movement, every push, every splash you make only creates more ripples, more waves, more turmoil. In your very attempt to create stillness, you become the primary source of the disturbance. The harder you try, the more chaotic the water becomes. The only way for the lake to become still, for the water to become clear enough to see the bottom, is to do something radical. Nothing. It is to walk out of the water, find a comfortable spot on the shore, and simply allow the lake to be as it is. Without your interference, the water will, on its own time, naturally settle. The ripples will soften, the waves will subside, and the surface will return to a state of glassy calm. Your mind is this lake. Your thoughts and emotions are the ripples and waves. Our habitual response to a turbulent mind is to jump in and start splashing, trying to force it into submission. The wisdom of this path is to learn to become the silent observer on the shore. This does not mean we become passive or lazy. It means we shift our role from that of a frantic controller to that of a wise and patient gardener. A gardener does not stand in front of a plot of land and shout commands at the flowers to grow or the weeds to vanish. This would be absurd. Instead, a wise gardener understands that their job is not to control nature, but to create the conditions for it to flourish. They tend to the soil, ensuring it is rich and healthy. They provide the right amount of water and sunlight, and when a weed appears, they do not declare war on it. They gently and patiently remove it, knowing that new weeds will always appear. They understand that their focus is better spent nurturing the flowers they wish to see grow. We can learn to be such gardeners for our own minds. We cannot stop the weed of an angry or anxious thought from sprouting. It will appear, carried on the winds of cause and condition, but we can choose not to water it with our endless attention and analysis. We can choose not to give it the sunlight of our belief. Instead, we can turn our attention to cultivating the flowers of kindness, compassion, and presence. We can tend to the soil of our mind through gentle practices, creating an inner environment where peace is more likely to bloom. This is a profound shift in perspective. We move from being a soldier in a constant, losing battle to being a nurturer in a lifelong, creative process. The practical application of this wisdom is the art of allowing. Allowing is not resignation. It is not agreeing with the negative thought. It is a conscious, gentle act of letting things be as they are. When a wave of sadness arises, instead of immediately trying to fix it or push it away, you can simply notice it. You can say internally, "Ah, sadness is here." You can feel the physical sensations of it in your body, the heaviness in the chest, the lump in the throat, without being swept away by the story the mind is telling about the sadness. You treat the emotion like a weather pattern passing through the vast sky of your awareness. The cloud is present, but it does not define the entire sky. The sky remains open, spacious, and untouched. To allow a thought or feeling in this way is a radical act of kindness toward yourself. It stops the second arrow in its tracks. It is laying down your weapons in the internal civil war. So we see that the desperate grasp for control is the very thing that keeps us trapped. True freedom and peace come from letting go of the struggle. We learn to sit on the shore and let the lake of the mind settle. We learn to tend to our inner garden rather than fight with the weeds. But this leads to a very practical and important question. If we are to simply allow the thoughts and feelings to come and go, if we are not to engage them in battle, where do we place our attention? Without a focus point, won't we just get lost in the chaos, swept away by the very waves we are trying not to fight? To be the observer on the shore, we need an anchor. We need a calm, stable place to rest our awareness while the weather of the mind passes by. We need a simple, reliable tool that can bring us out of the turbulent stories of the mind and into the quiet reality of the present moment. And fortunately, we are all born with such an anchor. It is as close, as constant, and as vital as our very own breath. Having seen that our attempts to control the mind are like trying to flatten a lake with our hands, we are left with a profound and freeing alternative: to let go of the war. We can choose to lay down our weapons, to step out of the turbulent water, and to simply allow the mind to be. But this act of allowing requires a foundation. To watch a storm without being swept away, we need an anchor. To observe the chaotic traffic of our thoughts without getting pulled into the street, we need a safe place to stand. Where can we find such a place of refuge? A sanctuary that is always available, always present, and utterly reliable. The answer is beautifully, miraculously simple. It is as close to you as your own body. It has been with you from the moment you were born until this very moment, and it will stay with you until your last. It is your breath. The breath is the ultimate anchor in the present moment. It possesses a quality that no thought, no memory, and no plan can ever claim. It is always happening now. You cannot take a breath that is in the past. You cannot inhale a breath that is in the future. To be consciously aware of the sensation of breathing is, by definition, to be fully present. It is the bridge that connects the ephemeral world of the mind to the tangible reality of the body. Thoughts can carry us to 1,000 different yesterdays and 1,000,000 possible tomorrows. But the breath can only be in the here and now. It is the rhythm of life itself, a constant gentle wave rising and falling, a faithful companion that asks for nothing but is always there to support us. Turning our attention to it is the simplest and most direct way to come home to the only moment we ever truly have. The practice of using this anchor is not complicated. It is not a breathing exercise that requires you to breathe in a special or controlled way. In fact, it is the opposite. The goal is not to change the breath at all, but simply to feel it exactly as it is. It is an act of pure observation, of gentle, curious listening. You can begin by finding where the sensation of the breath is most clear to you. For some, it is at the tip of the nostrils. You might feel the subtle coolness of the air as it enters and the gentle warmth as it leaves. You might notice the tiny, ticklish sensations just inside the nasal passage. For others, the sensation is more obvious in the chest or the belly. You can place a hand on your abdomen and feel the gentle expansion as you breathe in and the soft release as you breathe out. There is no right or wrong place to feel it. Simply choose one spot and let your attention rest there, as lightly as a butterfly resting on a flower. Let your attention merge with the sensation. When the breath comes in, know that the breath is coming in. When the breath goes out, know that the breath is going out. You might notice if it is a long breath or a short breath. You might notice the tiny pause that happens between the in-breath and the out-breath. You are not judging it. You are not trying to make it deeper or slower. You are simply offering it your full, kind attention. There is absolutely nothing to achieve. There is nowhere you need to go. There is no special state you need to attain. The practice is just this: the simple, profound intimacy of feeling one single breath, and then another, and then another. Now, we must speak of the most important part of this practice, the part that is most often misunderstood. Your mind will wander. This is not a possibility. It is a certainty. After a few breaths, or perhaps only one, you will find that you are no longer feeling the breath. You are, instead, lost in a thought. You may be planning tomorrow's schedule, replaying a conversation from yesterday, worrying about a problem, or lost in a fantasy. This is not a mistake. It is not a sign that you are a bad meditator or that you are failing. It is simply the nature of the untrained mind, the nature of that wild lake. The moment you realize your mind has wandered, that precious, luminous moment of waking up from the dream of thought is not a moment of failure. It is a moment of pure success. It is a moment of mindfulness. In that instant, you have remembered. And what do you do in that moment of remembering? You do something radical. You smile internally. You acknowledge the thought without judgment or frustration. And then, with infinite gentleness, with the kindness you would use to guide a lost child or a small puppy back home, you softly guide your attention back to the sensation of the breath. You do not scold the mind. You do not force it back with gritted teeth. You simply let go of the thought and begin again, feeling the very next in-breath. The wandering is not an interruption to the practice. The wandering is the practice. Every time you notice that your mind has strayed and you gently guide it back, you are strengthening the muscle of your attention. You are reinforcing the neural pathways of patience and self-compassion. Each return is a victory. The Buddha used a wonderful analogy to describe this process. He compared the untamed mind to a wild calf, freshly taken from its mother. It is full of restless energy, bolting at every sound, running here and there without purpose. If you wanted to tame this calf, you would not chase it around the field, yelling at it. This would only frighten it more. Instead, you would take a strong rope and tie one end around the calf's neck and the other end to a sturdy, unmoving post driven deep into the ground. That post is the breath. The rope is your gentle, mindful attention. At first, the calf will resist. It will pull and strain against the rope, running in circles until the rope is taut, trying with all its might to get away. It will exhaust itself with its own struggle. But eventually, after some time, it will realize that its frantic struggle is useless and that it cannot escape. It will discover that the area around the post is safe, and so it will lie down at the foot of the post and rest peacefully. Our mind is exactly like this wild calf. When we first try to anchor it to the breath, it will struggle. It will pull and strain, trying to run off into its familiar patterns of thinking and worrying. But if we are patient, if we just keep gently bringing it back to the post, again and again and again, the mind will eventually learn. It will learn that the struggle is fruitless. It will learn that true peace and safety are not found in chasing endless thoughts, but in resting quietly in the simple, present reality of the breath. This breath, this anchor, is your greatest ally in finding peace. It does not silence the storm, but it holds your boat steady in the midst of it. It allows you to feel the rise and fall of life's waves without being capsized by them. It is your constant refuge. Now that we have established this anchor, now that we have a place of stability to return to, we can begin to use this newfound steadiness to explore our world with greater intimacy and courage. And the most immediate, tangible, and often neglected part of our world is the very vessel that carries us through this life, our own body. From the single point of the breath, we can now expand our awareness to encompass the whole of our physical being. With our attention gently resting on the anchor of the breath, we have found a place of stability, a safe harbor in the storm of the mind. From this place of quiet presence, we can now undertake a new kind of journey. It is not a journey to a distant land, but a journey inward, into a territory that is at once intimately familiar and strangely unknown, the landscape of our own body. For many of us, we live our lives almost entirely from the neck up. We treat our bodies as vehicles to transport our brains from one meeting to another, or as projects to be improved at the gym, or as mannequins to be dressed and displayed to the world. We pay attention to it when it signals pain, or when it fails to meet our aesthetic demands. But we rarely take the time to simply be with it, to listen to its subtle language, to feel it from the inside out. We have become alienated from our own physical home. This practice is an invitation to return, to gently and kindly re-inhabit the whole of your being. The body is not just a collection of flesh and bone. It is a living, breathing archive of your entire life. Every joy, every fear, every moment of love, and every wound you have ever experienced has left an imprint within its tissues. The unspoken anger may live as tension in your jaw. The weight of responsibility may be stored as a chronic ache in your shoulders. The anxieties about the future may manifest as a knot in your stomach. To turn your attention toward the body is not just a physical exercise. It is an act of profound emotional healing. It is an act of self-reconciliation, of making peace with the faithful vessel that has carried you through every moment of your life. There is no need for judgment here, no need for criticism. All that is required is a gentle curiosity and a willingness to listen. Let us begin this journey together. Lying here, held by the stillness of the room, allow your attention, which may have been resting on the breath, to travel gently down, through your body, all the way down to your feet. Bring your awareness specifically to the toes of your left foot. See if you can feel them without needing to move them. You do not need to visualize them. Simply feel them. Can you sense the big toe and the small toes next to it? You might feel a sense of tingling, or warmth, or coolness. You might feel the light pressure of a blanket. Or you may feel very little, perhaps just a vague sense of numbness. Whatever you find is perfectly fine. There is no right or wrong way to feel. The intention is simply to notice, to bring a kind, interested attention to this part of your body. Now, allow that soft focus to expand, to include the sole of your left foot, the part that connects you to the earth when you stand. Feel the heel, resting against the surface beneath you. Let your awareness travel up into your ankle, and then slowly into the calf muscle of your lower leg. Notice any sensations here, perhaps tightness, or perhaps a feeling of spaciousness and ease. Let the awareness continue its journey up, through your knee, a complex and powerful joint, and into the large, strong muscles of your thigh. And now, just feel your entire left leg, from the tips of the toes to the top of the thigh, as one complete field of sensation, pulsing gently with life. Next, let us shift our attention, bringing that same gentle curiosity to your right foot. Begin again with the toes. Feel them from the inside, then allow the awareness to expand to the sole of the right foot, the heel, the ankle. Let it slowly travel up the right leg, through the shin and the calf, through the knee and into the thigh. Now, for a moment, feel both of your legs together, grounded, heavy, and relaxed. You are building a foundation of awareness, starting from the part of you that connects you to the ground. From this base, let your attention travel upward into the core of your body. Feel your hips, your pelvis, and the base of your spine. Then bring your awareness into your abdomen, your belly. This is an area where we often hold a great deal of emotional tension, particularly anxiety and fear. Without needing to change anything, just let your attention rest here. You might even imagine that your breath can travel all the way down into your belly. So with each inhalation, you are bringing a soft, gentle presence to this area. And with each exhalation, you are allowing for a little more release, a little more softening. Let your attention move into your lower back, another area that often carries strain. Just notice what is there. Then travel up into your chest, the area of your heart. Feel the gentle, rhythmic beating of your heart, a faithful drum that has been with you your entire life. Feel the rise and fall of your chest with each breath. This area holds our grief and our love, our joys and our sorrows. Simply be with it, with kindness. Allow your awareness to travel out from your chest, down both of your arms simultaneously. Feel your shoulders. This is where we so often carry the weight of the world, our burdens, our responsibilities. Perhaps you can notice if there is any tightness here. If there is, just let the awareness be with it. Do not try to force it to relax. The simple act of noticing with kindness is the beginning of release. Let the awareness flow down through your upper arms, your elbows, your forearms, and into your hands. Feel your hands. Feel the palms, the back of the hands, and each finger and thumb. Your hands are instruments of doing, of holding, of creating. For now, just let them be, resting, empty, and still. Now, bring your attention up into your neck and your throat. This is the delicate bridge between your body and your head. It is a channel of communication that we often constrict with unspoken words or tension. Let your awareness be soft here. Then, let it move into your face. Feel your jaw. Is it clenched or is it soft? Let your lips be soft. Feel your cheeks, your nose, your ears. Bring your attention to your eyes, resting gently in their sockets. And finally, bring your attention to the space between your eyebrows and to your forehead, an area where we hold the tension of concentration and worry. Let it be smooth. Let it be soft. And now, for a moment, see if you can feel your entire body, from the tips of your toes to the top of your head, as one unified field of sensation. Feel the life energy that animates the whole system. Feel the gentle rhythm of the breath, moving through this entire landscape. You are not just a mind that has a body. In this moment, you are this body. You are fully inhabiting your physical home. This is not an abstract idea. It is a direct, tangible experience. It is the feeling of being grounded, of being present, of being whole. There is a deep and quiet wisdom in the body, and by listening to it in this way, we begin to access that wisdom. We learn that peace is not an idea to be understood by the mind, but a state to be felt in the body. As you rest here, in this state of embodied awareness, a profound insight may begin to dawn. In watching the breath, we notice its constant flow. In feeling the body, we notice that sensations are not solid or permanent. A tingle appears, it lasts for a moment, and then it fades. An ache may be present, but even its intensity shifts and changes from one moment to the next. Nothing is static. Nothing is fixed. Everything is in a state of constant, gentle flux. This direct, first-hand experience of change is not a philosophical concept. It is a felt reality, and it is the gateway to understanding one of the most fundamental laws of our existence. A law that holds the key to profound freedom and release. Having anchored ourselves in the present moment through the breath, and having come home to the living landscape of our body, we begin to notice something remarkable. Through this quiet, sustained attention, a fundamental truth of our own experience begins to reveal itself, not as a theory, but as a direct, felt reality. As you feel the breath, you notice that the in-breath is born. It lives for a moment, and then it dissolves into the out-breath, which itself is born, lives, and dissolves into stillness. As you feel the sensations in your body, you notice that a feeling of warmth may arise in your hands. It may linger for a time, and then it fades, replaced by a sense of coolness or tingling. Nothing is solid. Nothing is static. Everything, from the microscopic level of your cells to the vast sweep of your thoughts and emotions, is in a state of constant, ceaseless flow. This is the great lesson of impermanence. In the ancient language of the Buddha, this is called anicca. To understand anicca is to understand the nature of reality itself. We live in a world where we crave certainty and permanence. We build our homes with strong foundations. We sign contracts and we make promises, all in an attempt to create a sense of solid ground beneath our feet. Yet, the universe operates on a single, unwavering principle, the principle of change. The majestic mountains that seem so eternal are slowly being worn down by wind and rain. The stars in the night sky, which appear as fixed points of light, are immense cosmic furnaces, living out their life cycles over billions of years. Our own bodies, which feel so familiar and solid to us, are in a state of radical transformation from moment to moment. Cells are dying and being reborn. The person you were physically 7 years ago is almost entirely gone, replaced by new matter. Everything you can see, touch, and know is a temporary arrangement of energy, a fleeting pattern in the great river of time. This law applies most profoundly to our inner world, the very world we are trying to bring to a state of peace. Consider the most difficult and painful emotions that visit you. Think of a time when you were consumed by a wave of intense anger. In that moment, it felt all-powerful, as if it would last forever. It felt like the absolute truth of your being. But where is that anger now? It arose, it burned brightly, and like all things, it subsided. It changed, transformed, and eventually passed away. Think of a time of deep anxiety, when your heart was racing and your mind was filled with catastrophic thoughts. It may have felt like a permanent state of being, a prison from which you would never escape. But it too passed. It gave way to moments of calm, or distraction, or even joy. The deepest sadness, the most profound grief, also moves in waves. It comes, it washes over us, and it recedes. This is a source of immense hope. Whatever difficult state you may be experiencing right now, you can know with absolute certainty, based on the entire history of your life, that it is not your final destination. It is a temporary weather pattern passing through the vast sky of your awareness. The same law, of course, applies to our pleasant experiences. Think of a moment of pure, unadulterated joy, the thrill of a great success, the warmth of a loving embrace, the beauty of a piece of music. These moments are incredibly precious, but they, too, are fleeting. They arise, they fill us with light, and then they transform into something else, a warm memory, a gentle afterglow. Much of our suffering comes not from the fact that these moments end, but from our desperate attempt to cling to them, to make them permanent. We try to fossilize joy, which is like trying to capture lightning in a bottle. In our attempt to hold on, we introduce a subtle anxiety into the heart of our happiness. But by understanding the transient nature of joy, we can learn to appreciate it more fully, to savor it completely in the moment it is here, without the desperate need for it to last forever. We can hold our happiness with an open hand rather than a clenched fist. This understanding helps us to shift our entire sense of identity. We tend to believe that we are our thoughts and emotions. When anger is present, we say, "I am angry." When sadness is present, we say, "I am sad." We identify completely with the temporary weather of the mind. The practice of observing impermanence allows us to see this from a different perspective. It invites us to see that we are not the weather. We are the sky. The sky is the vast, open, boundless awareness in which all the phenomena of our lives take place. Clouds of all kinds drift through the sky. There are dark, stormy clouds of anger and fear. There are fluffy, white clouds of happiness. There are thin, wispy clouds of fleeting thoughts. Sometimes, the sky is completely obscured by clouds, and sometimes it is perfectly clear and blue. But through it all, the sky itself is never harmed, never stained, and never fundamentally changed by the clouds that pass through it. To realize that you are the sky and not the clouds is to find a place of unshakable peace, a freedom that is not dependent on having a perpetually clear and sunny mind. There is a timeless story that speaks to this wisdom. A great king who possessed immense power and wealth was nevertheless troubled by the turbulent nature of his own heart. He would be elated by victory one day and thrown into despair by a small setback the next. He longed for something that could offer him stability and wisdom through all the ups and downs of his life. So, he summoned the wisest people in his kingdom and gave them a task. "Create for me," he said, "a ring with a special inscription. The words on this ring must have the power to comfort me in my darkest hours of sorrow and to ground me in my moments of greatest triumph." The wise people consulted for many weeks, and finally, they returned to the king and presented him with a simple, elegant ring. The king looked closely at the inscription and read the words engraved upon it. The words were, "This, too, shall pass." From that day on, the ring became the king's most valued possession. When his kingdom was threatened, or he was filled with grief, he would look at the ring and remember, "This, too, shall pass," and it gave him the strength to endure. And when he had won a great battle, or was being celebrated by his people, filled with pride and glory, he would glance at his ring and remember, "This, too, shall pass," and it kept him humble and connected to the truth. This simple phrase was a constant reminder of the law of anicca, a source of profound equanimity. To some, the teaching of impermanence might sound pessimistic or sad, but this is a deep misunderstanding. The truth of impermanence is what makes life so incredibly precious. It is because this very moment will never, ever come again that it is worthy of our full attention. It is because our time with our loved ones is finite that each shared moment is sacred. Impermanence is the antidote to taking life for granted. It encourages us to forgive more easily because grievances are too heavy to carry through a short life. It encourages us to love more deeply because the opportunity to do so is not endless. It teaches us to hold all of our experiences, the pleasant, the unpleasant, and the neutral with a lighter touch, with more grace and less resistance. It is an invitation to dance with the flow of life, rather than trying to stand still in the middle of a flowing river. By watching your breath, by by feeling the sensations in your body, you are seeing this truth for yourself. You are not just thinking about it. You are experiencing it directly. Everything arises. Everything passes away. This is the nature of things. And if this is true, if everything is already flowing, then our frantic efforts to hold on and push away are a struggle against the very fabric of reality. It is a struggle that we can never win, and one that only leads to exhaustion. Seeing this clearly, with the compassionate wisdom of our own experience, leads us to the next natural and liberating step. If clinging is a fight against reality, then the path to peace must lie in the gentle, courageous art of letting go. Having awakened to the profound truth of impermanence, seeing that all of life, within and without, is a ceaseless and unstoppable flow, we arrive at a critical juncture in our journey. If everything is by its very nature changing, like a river flowing to the sea, then our deep-seated human habit of trying to grasp the water, of trying to build dams against the current, is revealed as a struggle against reality itself. This struggle, this clinging to what we like, and this pushing away of what we dislike, is the very friction that creates so much of the heat and pain in our lives. The clear seeing of impermanence, therefore, points us toward a path of profound relief. It invites us to learn the gentle, courageous, and deeply liberating practice of letting go. In the Buddhist tradition, this is connected to the concept of nekkhamma. While sometimes translated as renunciation, a more helpful and resonant meaning for our journey is the freedom of letting go. At first, this idea can seem frightening or passive. We might equate letting go with giving up, with apathy, or with a cold indifference to the world. But this is a misunderstanding. The art of letting go is not an act of weakness. It is an act of supreme wisdom and strength. It is not about not caring. It is about caring so deeply for our own peace and the peace of others that we refuse to continue harming ourselves with the poison of clinging. Imagine you are holding a burning piece of coal in your hand. It is searing your flesh and causing you agony. Letting go is not an act of indifference toward the coal. It is the wise and compassionate act of opening your hand to save yourself from further pain. We hold on to our grievances, our anxieties, and our regrets like burning coals, believing that our tight grip gives us some kind of control, when in reality, it only burns us. One of the heaviest burdens we carry is the weight of our own expectations. We carry a detailed, invisible blueprint in our minds for how everything is supposed to be. We have a blueprint for ourselves, one that often demands perfection. It tells us we should always be patient, always be productive, never feel jealousy, and never make mistakes. When our actual, human reality fails to match this impossible blueprint, we condemn ourselves. Letting go of this expectation is to offer ourselves the gift of grace. It is to accept our messy, beautiful, flawed humanity, and to treat ourselves with the same kindness we would offer a dear friend. We also carry blueprints for other people. We have detailed scripts for how our parents, our children, our partners, and our friends ought to behave. When they inevitably deviate from our script, speaking their own lines and following their own hearts, we feel betrayed and disappointed. To let go is to burn this script and to grant others the freedom to be who they are, not who we need them to be. And finally, we have a grand blueprint for life itself, a timeline of when we should have achieved certain things, of how our story is supposed to go. Letting go of this rigid narrative allows us to meet life as it truly is, a mysterious, unpredictable, and often beautiful journey, full of unexpected detours that often lead to our most important discoveries. Perhaps the most important act of letting go, especially as we seek the sanctuary of sleep, is the act of letting go of the past. The mind at night can become a courtroom, and we are simultaneously the judge, the prosecutor, and the defendant on trial for past crimes. We endlessly replay our mistakes, our embarrassing moments, our missed opportunities. We carry our past with us, like a heavy sack slung over our shoulder. Inside this sack are the stones of every regret, every harsh word we've spoken, every hurt we have endured. We carry this immense weight with us into every new day, and we wonder why we are so tired. The art of letting go is the conscious decision to put this sack down, right here, right now. It does not mean we pretend the past didn't happen. We cannot change what was, but we can change our relationship to it. The past only has power over us in one form, as a thought, arising in the present moment. It is just a memory, a ghost, and we can choose to stop feeding our ghosts. We can choose to let them be, to watch them arise and pass away, without allowing them to cause us harm, in the only moment that is real. This one. There is a classic Zen story that speaks directly to this truth. Two monks were on a long pilgrimage. They came to a river where the ford had been washed away by heavy rains. On the bank stood a beautiful young woman in a fine silk kimono, afraid to cross for fear of ruining her clothes and being swept away. Without a word, the older of the two monks walked over to her, hoisted her onto his back, carried her across the churning water, and gently set her down on the other side. She bowed curtly and went on her way. The two monks continued their journey. The younger monk, however, was silent and sullen. His mind was a storm of judgment. His vows forbade him to touch a woman, and his companion had not only touched one, but had carried her in his arms. He was scandalized. For hours, he walked in simmering silence, replaying the scene in his mind, building his case. Finally, he could stand it no longer. He burst out, "Brother, how could you do that? You know our vows. How could you touch that woman, let alone carry her across the river like that?" The older monk looked at him with a gentle, compassionate expression. He replied softly, "Brother, I put that woman down by the river hours ago. Why are you still carrying her?" This is the question we must ask ourselves. As we lie down to rest, what are we still carrying? A grudge from a decade ago? An unkind comment from this morning? A worry about tomorrow? A mistake from our childhood? These things are the woman on our back. We have carried them far past the river. The practice of letting go is the practice of setting them down. It is the recognition that the only person burdened by our resentment is ourselves. It is understanding that the future is an imagined concept, and that trying to control it is like trying to harness the wind. The art of letting go is to focus on what you can control, your intention, your actions, and your responses in this present moment. It is to be like an archer who focuses with all their skill on their posture, their aim, and the clean release of the arrow. Once the arrow has flown, the archer lets it go. They cannot control the wind or the movement of the target. They find peace in the integrity of their own action, and they release their attachment to the result. Letting go, then, is an act of unclenching the fist of the mind. It is a declaration of peace in the long and tiring war against reality. It is a homecoming to a lighter, simpler, and more graceful way of being. As you practice this, you will notice something wonderful happening. As you let go of old hurts and anxieties, you create space. Your inner world, which was once cluttered and noisy, becomes more spacious, more open, more quiet. A clearing has been made in the dense forest of the mind. This raises a beautiful and essential question. Now that we have created this clear, quiet space, what shall we plant here? Having ceased to cultivate the weeds of negativity, what positive, life-giving qualities shall we now choose to nurture? This brings us to the next phase of our journey, moving from the emptying of letting go to the active and joyful cultivation of a warm and open heart. Having cleared a space within, having gently set down the heavy burdens of the past and the anxieties for the future, we find ourselves in a place of quiet openness. This inner clearing is not meant to remain empty. It is a fertile ground, ready to be cultivated. Now, instead of focusing on what we are releasing, we turn our attention to what we wish to grow. We begin the active, joyful practice of nurturing the most healing and fundamental of all human qualities, a boundless, unconditional, and gentle loving kindness. In the Pali language, this quality is called metta. It is a warmth that we can offer without limit, a benevolent friendliness that we can extend to all of life, and most importantly, to ourselves. This journey of metta must begin in the one place we so often neglect, our own heart. For many of us, the most familiar voice in our heads is that of an inner critic. It is a harsh and relentless judge, cataloging our failures, highlighting our flaws, and comparing us unfavorably to others. We would never dream of speaking to a dear friend the way we often speak to ourselves in the privacy of our own minds. We believe this harshness will motivate us, that it will keep us from becoming complacent. But in truth, it only creates a constant, low-grade state of inner conflict and unhappiness. You cannot pour from an empty cup. You cannot offer genuine warmth to the world if your own heart is cold and starved of kindness. Therefore, the most courageous and essential act in cultivating loving kindness is to turn that gentle, benevolent attention inward first. It is to make peace with the person you spend every moment of your life with, yourself. So let us begin this practice. Lying here, allow your attention to rest in the area of your chest, your heart center. Let it be a soft and gentle focus. Perhaps you can recall a time when you felt a pure and simple warmth. It might be the feeling of holding a beloved pet, or the memory of a kind word someone offered you when you needed it most. It might be the beauty of a sunrise, or the simple comfort of a warm drink on a cold day. You are not trying to manufacture a powerful emotion, but simply to invite a gentle feeling of warmth and friendliness into your being. And into this feeling, we will begin to plant some seeds, silently repeating a few simple phrases. These are not affirmations meant to force a belief, but are rather expressions of a deep and sincere wish, a direction for our heart. With your attention resting gently in your heart center, silently offer these phrases to yourself. May I be safe. May I be safe from all inner and outer harm. May I feel secure and protected. May I be healthy. May my body be strong and free from illness. May my mind be clear and calm. May I be happy. May I know a genuine and lasting happiness, a contentment that comes from within. May I live with ease. May I navigate the challenges of life with grace and resilience. May my heart be at peace. Repeat these phrases slowly, gently, allowing their meaning to resonate within you. If your mind wanders, that is perfectly fine. Just as before, gently guide it back. If you feel resistance or find it difficult to offer these wishes to yourself, that too is okay. Simply notice the resistance with kindness. For many of us, learning to be kind to ourselves is like learning a new language. It takes time and patient practice. Just continue to plant the seeds, phrase by phrase, breath by breath. May I be safe. May I be healthy. May I be happy. May I live with ease. This is the foundation. This is the act of filling your own cup, so that its warmth may eventually overflow. Now, from this foundation of self-kindness, we can begin to expand the circle of our warmth. Bring to mind a person for whom you have great affection and respect, someone who has been kind to you. It might be a teacher, a mentor, a family member, or a dear friend. Picture them in your mind's eye and feel the natural warmth you have for them. Now, offer them the same wishes you offered yourself. May you be safe. May you be healthy. May you be happy. May you live with ease. Feel this benevolent energy flowing from your heart to theirs. A simple and pure wish for their well-being, with no expectation of anything in return. Next, let us stretch the heart a little further. Bring to mind a neutral person. This is someone you may see regularly, but for whom you feel neither strong liking nor disliking. It might be the person who delivers your mail, a cashier at a store you frequent, or someone you pass on your daily walk. We so often walk through the world, seeing others as mere background characters in our own story. This practice helps us to see their full humanity. Bring this person's face to mind and offer them the very same wishes. May you be safe. May you be healthy. May you be happy. May you live with ease. In this simple act, you are breaking down the walls of indifference and recognizing that this person, just like you, wishes to be happy and free from suffering. Now, we come to the most transformative and sometimes the most challenging stage of the practice. Gently bring to mind someone with whom you have a difficult relationship. It is wise to start with someone who is only mildly irritating or difficult, not the source of your deepest wounds. Hold their image in your mind and acknowledge any feelings of hurt or anger that may arise. Let those feelings be there. And then, see if it is possible, as an experiment for your own heart's freedom, to extend to them the same wishes. May you be safe. May you be healthy. May you be happy. May you live with ease. This is not an act of condoning their harmful behavior. It is not an act of forcing yourself to like them. It is a profound act of healing for yourself. It is the recognition that holding on to anger and resentment is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to be harmed. In offering them these wishes, you are choosing to free yourself from the prison of your own bitterness. You are prioritizing your own peace. Finally, let the circle become boundless. Let go of any single individual and allow this feeling of loving kindness to radiate outwards in all directions. Imagine it extending to everyone in your home, your neighborhood, your city. Then let it expand further to all people in your country and to all people across the entire world. But do not stop there. Let it extend to all living creatures, the animals in the wild, the birds in the sky, the fish in the sea, the insects in the grass. All beings, without exception. May all beings be safe. May all beings be healthy. May all beings be happy. May all beings live with ease. Rest in this state of boundless, benevolent warmth. This practice is the direct antidote to the poison of anger and ill will. It is impossible to genuinely wish for someone's happiness and to feel hatred for them in the same moment. It softens the hard edges of our judgments and dissolves the walls that separate us. It is a balm for the anxious heart, creating a sense of safety, connection, and belonging. As you rest in this warmth, a natural question may arise. This wish for all beings to be happy is beautiful and powerful. But what happens when this loving kindness encounters a being who is in pain? What happens when our wish for happiness meets the raw reality of suffering, either in ourselves or in another? At that moment, metta, this gentle loving kindness, undergoes a beautiful transformation. It does not turn away, Instead, it blossoms into a new, deeply resonant quality. It becomes the heart's trembling response to pain. It becomes compassion. As our hearts are softened and warmed by the gentle practice of loving kindness, a boundless wish for all beings to be happy, we inevitably encounter the reality of the world. Our benevolent warmth does not always land on beings who are already happy. It shines upon those who are struggling, who are in pain, who are lost in the depths of their own suffering. What happens when our loving heart, wishing for wellness, meets the undeniable presence of pain? It does not turn away. It does not recoil. Instead, it undergoes a beautiful and profound transformation. The gentle warmth of loving kindness, when it touches the cold reality of suffering, becomes compassion. In the Pali language, this is called karuna. Karuna is the heart's tremble in the face of pain. It is the natural resonance we feel when we witness the suffering of another being, and it is accompanied by the deep, sincere wish for that suffering to be relieved. If loving kindness, or metta, is the broad, gentle sunlight wishing for all flowers to grow, then compassion, or karuna, is the focused, intense warmth of that same sun attempting to melt a patch of ice. It is the active form of love in the presence of dukkha. It is the shift from the gentle wish, "May you be happy," to the urgent, heartfelt prayer, "May you be free from this suffering." It is the heart's courageous decision to stay present, to bear witness to pain without being overwhelmed by it. It is essential to understand that compassion is not the same as pity. Pity is a sentiment that often comes from a place of superiority. We look down from our own safe position and say, "Oh, that poor person," and in doing so, we create a distance between ourselves and them. Pity emphasizes the separation. Compassion does the very opposite. It arises from the recognition of our shared humanity and our shared vulnerability to suffering. It comes from a place of, "I understand." It does not mean we have experienced the exact same circumstances, but it means we know the taste of pain, the feeling of loss, the sting of fear. Compassion says, "You are not alone in this." It breaks down the walls of separation and creates a bridge of heartfelt connection. It is the recognition of ourselves in the eyes of another. Just as with loving kindness, the practice of compassion must begin with ourselves. In our society, we are often trained to be compassionate toward others, but to be harsh and demanding with our own struggles. When a friend makes a mistake, we offer them comfort and understanding. When we make the same mistake, we unleash our inner critic, berating ourselves for our failure. When a loved one is grieving, we hold them and allow them their tears. When we are grieving, we tell ourselves to be strong and get over it. This is a form of self-abandonment. We cannot be a true source of comfort for others if we are at war with ourselves. The foundation of genuine compassion for all beings is the ability to be a good friend to yourself, especially when you are suffering. Let us, for a moment, practice this gentle art of self-compassion. Bring to mind a difficulty you are currently facing in your life. It does not need to be a great tragedy, but a real and present source of stress or pain. Perhaps it is a challenge at work, a conflict in a relationship, or a worry about your health. As you hold this difficulty in your mind, first, simply acknowledge the pain it is causing you. You can say to yourself, silently, "This is a moment of suffering," or simply, "This hurts." This is the mindfulness component, honestly admitting the presence of the first arrow, without immediately trying to fix it or push it away. Second, remind yourself of your connection to all of humanity. You can say to yourself, "Suffering is a part of life. Other people feel this way too." I am not alone. This step is the antidote to the feeling of isolation that so often accompanies our pain. The feeling that we are the only one who is struggling in this way. It connects our personal pain to the universal experience of being human. And third, offer yourself a gesture of kindness. This could be placing a hand gently over your heart, feeling the warmth and gentle pressure. Or you might offer yourself some kind and encouraging words, the same words you might offer a dear friend. May I be kind to myself in this moment. May I give myself the patience and compassion that I need. May I accept myself just as I am with this struggle. This 3-step practice is a powerful way to soothe your own heart and to train yourself in the fundamental skill of self-compassion. In the great myths of the East, there is a figure who embodies this perfected compassion. This is the Bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara, known as Kwan Theum. The story is told that this great being of wisdom stood at the very threshold of nirvana, the final peace and cessation of all suffering. But as he was about to take the final step, he paused because he heard a sound rising from the world below. It was the sound of 1,000,000 cries of anguish, the sob of every broken heart, the lament of every being in pain. And moved by an unbearable and infinite compassion, Avalokiteshvara made a great vow to postpone his own entry into final peace until every last being, down to the last blade of grass, had been liberated from suffering. He is often depicted with 1,000 arms, each with an eye in the palm, symbolizing his ability to see the suffering in every corner of the universe and the countless skillful ways he reaches out to offer comfort and aid. This is the ideal of karuna, not a detached, cold wisdom, but a deeply engaged, active, and boundless compassion. This compassionate understanding can transform our relationship with difficult people. When we see someone acting out of anger, greed, or cruelty, our first instinct is judgment and condemnation. But a compassionate view invites us to look deeper. It reminds us that people who inflict pain are almost always in deep pain themselves. Their harmful actions are often a misguided, desperate attempt to soothe their own inner turmoil, or a direct expression of their own confusion and fear. As the saying goes, hurt people hurt people. To understand this is not to condone or excuse their actions. We must still protect ourselves from harm, but it allows us to do so without filling our own hearts with the poison of hatred. We can see their actions as a symptom of their own deep suffering, and from a place of safety, we can even offer them the quiet, compassionate wish, may you be free from the suffering that is causing you to act in this way. Compassion, then, is the heart's tender strength. It is the ability to walk into the dark places of life, both our own and others, without being consumed by the darkness. It is to bring the light of our loving attention to bear on what is painful. Together, loving kindness and compassion create a heart that is resilient and beautifully balanced. We have learned to wish for all beings to be happy, and we have learned to wish for all beings to be free from their suffering. But there is one more essential element required to make our hearts truly boundless. What is our response when we witness the happiness and success of others? Sometimes, the mind reacts not with the pure joy of loving kindness, but with the subtle shadow of jealousy or comparison. To complete the heart's education, we must learn to cultivate the radiant quality of sympathetic joy, the ability to genuinely rejoice in the good fortune of others. Having opened our hearts with the warmth of loving kindness and the tender strength of compassion, we have learned to meet both the happiness and the suffering of the world with a benevolent presence. We have cultivated the wish for all beings to be well, and the wish for all beings to be free from pain. Now we turn to the third of these great, heart-opening qualities, one that can be both challenging and profoundly liberating in our modern world, we turn to the practice of sympathetic joy, the ability to rejoice in the happiness and success of others. In the Pali language, this radiant quality is called mudita. In the culture many of us inhabit, we are subtly trained from a very young age to see life as a competition. We are ranked in school, we compete for positions at work, and we are constantly, almost unconsciously, measuring our own success, our own happiness, and our own worth against that of others. This gives rise to what can be called a scarcity mindset. We come to believe, on a deep and often unexamined level, that happiness is a limited resource, like a single pie cut into a finite number of slices. If someone else achieves a great success or experiences a profound joy, it can feel as though they have taken a larger slice of the pie, leaving less for us. This belief is the fertile ground in which the toxic weeds of envy, jealousy, and resentment grow. It turns our neighbors and colleagues into rivals and transforms the good news of others into a source of personal pain. Social media, with its curated highlight reels of other people's lives, can be a powerful engine for this kind of suffering, leaving us feeling that our own life is somehow lacking in comparison. This scarcity mindset is a prison for the heart, locking us into a state of perpetual striving and dissatisfaction. Mudita, or sympathetic joy, is the key that unlocks this prison. It is the radical and joyful recognition that happiness is not a limited resource. It operates from a mindset of abundance. The happiness of another person does not diminish our own, any more than the light of one candle is lessened by its use to light another. In fact, the opposite is true. When one candle lights another, the total amount of light in the room increases. Mudita is the practice of delighting in the fact that the light of happiness has appeared in the world, regardless of who is holding the candle. It is the ability to feel genuinely happy when good things happen to other people. This is a profound shift. It means that our opportunities for experiencing joy are no longer limited to the ups and downs of our own small personal life. If we can learn to rejoice in the happiness of everyone we meet, our chances for joy become nearly infinite. We can find delight everywhere. Like the other heart practices, the cultivation of mudita can be done in a gentle, systematic way. Let us begin with someone for whom it is easy to feel this joy. Bring to mind a very dear friend, a beloved family member, or a child. Now, think of a recent happiness that has come into their life. Perhaps they received a promotion at work, fell in love, recovered from an illness, or simply had a wonderful, carefree day. Picture their face, radiant with this happiness. Hear the sound of their joyful laughter. Allow yourself to truly connect with their experience of delight. Let their joy touch your own heart. As you feel this warmth, you can silently offer them these phrases. I am so happy for you. May your joy and good fortune continue. May your happiness increase and not fade away. Feel the sincerity of this wish. It is a pure offering, a celebration of their well-being. Notice how it feels in your own body to genuinely rejoice in another's good fortune. It is a light, expansive, and deeply pleasant feeling. Now, we can apply this practice to more challenging situations. Imagine you hear that a colleague has received an honor that you secretly hoped for yourself. The habitual, conditioned reaction might be a pang of envy, a tightening in the chest, a sense of personal failure. This is a normal human reaction. The practice of mudita does not involve denying or shaming this feeling. Instead, it involves making a conscious, gentle choice to cultivate a different response alongside it. You can acknowledge the feeling of envy. Ah, envy is here. And then, you can intentionally shift your perspective. You can think of your colleagues' years of hard work, their dedication, the obstacles they overcame. You can imagine the sense of validation and happiness they must be feeling, and you can make a conscious effort to be happy for them. You can silently wish them well. I am happy that your efforts have been rewarded. May you enjoy this success. This is not an easy practice at first, but with patience, it can transform your inner world. You are choosing freedom over the painful, self-imposed prison of jealousy. To help understand this shift, imagine you are traveling through a vast, arid desert. You are tired, thirsty, and unsure of the way. In the distance, you see another traveler. They have fallen to their knees, and you see them joyfully drinking from a small spring of water they have just discovered. Now, the mind of envy, the scarcity mindset, looks at this scene and thinks, he is drinking the water. It is a small spring, and he will use it all up. There will be none left for me. This thought creates anger, despair, and a feeling of rivalry. It increases the suffering of the journey. The mind of mudita, the abundance mindset, sees the exact same scene and thinks, look, he has found water. This is wonderful news. It means there is water in this desert. His discovery gives me hope. If he can find it, then I can find it too. The other person's success is no longer a threat. It is a source of inspiration. It is proof that happiness, like water in the desert, is possible. The cultivation of mudita has a profound effect on our lives. Internally, it is a powerful source of our own happiness. It liberates us from the exhausting and corrosive emotions of envy and comparison. Our own heart becomes a more joyful and pleasant place to inhabit. It also dramatically improves our relationships. People are naturally drawn to those who can celebrate them without reservation, who can listen to their good news without a hint of rivalry. Mudita is the foundation of deep trust, authentic friendship, and true intimacy. When you can genuinely delight in the successes of your partner, your children, and your friends, you become a source of strength and light in their lives. You become a person everyone wants to be around. We have now explored 3 of the 4 sublime states of the heart. We have cultivated metta, the gentle, universal love that wishes for all beings to be happy. We have cultivated karuna, the tender compassion that wishes for all beings to be free from suffering. And we have now cultivated mudita, the appreciative joy that celebrates the happiness and success of all beings. These 3 qualities are like 3 strong pillars that support a truly resilient and beautiful heart. They allow us to engage with the whole spectrum of life's experiences with grace and warmth. But for these 3 pillars to stand firm, to remain steady through all the winds of praise and blame, gain and loss, success and failure, they must rest upon an unshakable foundation. What is this foundation that allows us to love, to care, and to rejoice without losing our own center, without becoming overwhelmed? This leads us to the 4th and culminating of these divine abodes, the profound, unwavering peace of equanimity. Having cultivated a heart that is warm with loving kindness, tender with compassion, and bright with sympathetic joy, we have assembled the essential qualities for a beautiful and engaged life. We have learned to wish well for all beings, to feel with them in their sorrow, and to celebrate with them in their joy. Yet, anyone who has practiced these qualities knows that the open heart is also a vulnerable heart. How do we keep our loving kindness from turning into anxious attachment? How do we prevent our compassion from leading to emotional burnout? How do we stop our joy from becoming agitated or possessive. The heart, in all its radiance, needs a guardian. It needs a great, stabilizing force that allows it to love boundlessly without losing its center. This fourth and culminating of the sublime states, the unshakable foundation upon which the other three rest, is called upekkha, or equanimity. Equanimity is perhaps the most misunderstood of all these heart qualities. Because it speaks of balance and non-reactivity, it is often confused with its near enemy, cold, sterile, indifference. But equanimity is not indifference. Indifference is a shutting down of the heart, a state of withdrawal born from fear or weariness. It says, "I don't care." It is a grey and lifeless state. Equanimity is the very opposite. It is a state of profound openness and engagement, but one that is rooted in deep wisdom and inner balance. It is a vast, spacious quality of mind that allows the full spectrum of life's experiences to arise and pass away without being thrown into turmoil. It is the quiet, unwavering center of the spinning wheel. It is the calm, clear water of a deep lake, which remains undisturbed no matter what happens on the surface. In our lives, we are constantly being blown about by what the teachings call the 8 worldly winds. These winds blow from all directions, and they are gain and loss, pleasure and pain, praise and blame, and fame and disrepute. When we experience gain, pleasure, praise, or fame, we are lifted up, often into a state of excitement and pride. When we experience loss, pain, blame, or disrepute, we are cast down into despair, anger, or shame. A mind without equanimity is like a leaf caught in these winds, tossed about helplessly with no control over its state. The practice of cultivating equanimity is the practice of becoming a great mountain. Imagine a vast, ancient mountain, its peaks reaching into the clouds and its roots deep in the earth. The winds howl around this mountain. The stinging winds of blame and criticism blow from the north, carrying sharp words and harsh judgments. The turbulent gales of loss and failure rage from the west, bringing storms of disappointment and grief. From the south, the warm, seductive breezes of praise and success attempt to lull the mountain into complacency. And from the east, the thick fogs of fame and obscurity roll in, trying to confuse the mountain about its own nature. The grasses on the mountain slopes may bend, the trees may sway and lose their leaves, but the mountain itself remains utterly, profoundly, unshakably still. It is not disturbed by the changing weather. Its fundamental nature is one of stability, presence, and silent strength. Your mind can learn to be this mountain. Equanimity is this quality of unshakable, spacious peace. This profound stability does not come from suppressing our feelings or building walls around our heart. It arises naturally from the soil of deep wisdom, particularly the wisdom of impermanence, which we have already explored. Because we have seen directly that all things are in a state of constant flow, we are no longer so easily fooled by the worldly winds. When praise comes, we can receive it graciously, but we know it is impermanent. We don't cling to it as the source of our worth. When blame comes, it may still sting, but we know that it too is just a temporary condition, a cloud passing in the sky. We don't have to build our identity on it. Equanimity is also rooted in a wise understanding of cause and effect, or karma. We see that all beings, including ourselves, are the heirs of their own actions. People act as they do because of a vast and complex web of causes and conditions, of which we can only see a tiny fraction, the anger directed at us, is often the fruit of another person's own deep suffering. Seeing this, we are less likely to take it personally. It is not that the arrow doesn't hurt, but we understand it wasn't forged exclusively for us. This wisdom creates a space, a buffer, that allows us to respond with balance rather than to simply react. Equanimity acts as the great protector and purifier of the other three heart qualities. It ensures that they remain balanced and wise. With loving kindness, equanimity prevents our love from becoming selfish, clinging, or possessiveness. It allows us to love freely, for the sake of the other's happiness, without our own peace being dependent on their well-being or their presence in our life. It is the quality that allows a parent to love their child so completely that they can let them go to live their own life. With compassion, equanimity is the essential guardian against burnout. It allows us to feel the pain of the world without drowning in it. It is the steady hand of the surgeon who feels for the patient but is not overcome by their suffering and can therefore act with clarity and skill. It allows our compassion to be a sustainable, lifelong resource. With sympathetic joy, equanimity prevents our happiness for others from turning into overexcitement, agitation, or a subtle kind of attachment to their success. It allows us to feel a calm, steady, and selfless joy that does not disturb our own inner peace. Upekkha is the vast, open container in which the radiant energies of love, compassion, and joy can manifest in their purest and most beneficial forms. Ultimately, equanimity is the fruit of radical acceptance. It is the end of our long and exhausting war with reality. It is the peace that comes when we finally stop insisting that life should conform to our personal preferences. It is the willingness to meet pleasure without grasping for more, and to meet pain without resisting or pushing it away. We are no longer trying to flatten the waves on the lake. We are resting on the shore, watching the natural, lawful, and ever-changing display of life unfold, with a heart that is open, balanced, and free. This is the profound peace, the ultimate emotional reset that these heart practices can bring. As we rest in this state of deep balance, a subtle and powerful question may begin to form in the quietest part of our mind. We have spoken of these 8 worldly winds, of praise and blame, gain and loss. What is it, exactly, that is being buffeted by these winds? What is the thing that feels the pleasure of praise and the sting of blame? What is this central reference point around which our entire emotional world seems to revolve? It is our deep-seated sense of I, our ego, the story of me. To find a freedom that is even deeper, a peace that is truly unshakable, we must turn the gentle light of our awareness onto this very foundation of our experience. We must begin to investigate the nature of this self we work so hard to protect and promote. This inquiry leads us out of the realm of the heart and into the very heart of wisdom itself. Having cultivated a heart that is balanced and steady through the practice of equanimity, a heart that can remain peaceful amidst the worldly winds of praise and blame, gain and loss, we are now prepared to venture into the deepest and most liberating inquiry of all. We have quieted the mind, opened the heart, and stabilized our awareness. Now, we can turn that clear, gentle light of inquiry onto the very center of our universe, the unquestioned reference point for our entire lives. We must ask the question, what is this I? What is this self that feels praised or blamed? What is this me that we work so tirelessly to protect, promote, and defend? This investigation leads us to the heart of Buddhist wisdom, to a teaching called anatta, often translated as no, self. Before we proceed, It is essential to know that this is not a teaching of annihilation. It is not meant to prove that you do not exist. It is a teaching of liberation, a gentle unwinding of a fundamental misunderstanding that is the root of our deepest anxieties. It is about discovering a freedom so profound that it cannot be put into words, a peace that comes from letting go of our tightest grip. To begin this investigation, we don't need to look outside of our own direct experience. The teachings suggest we look at what we call our self and see that it is composed of 5 distinct processes, or aggregates. Let us look at them together, one by one, with gentle curiosity. First, there is the body, or form. We are very attached to our bodies. We identify with them strongly. But are you truly your body? If you were your body, which part would you be? A finger? A leg? An internal organ? If you lose a part of your body, are you any less you? Furthermore, your body is in a constant state of change. It is composed entirely of non-body elements. The food you have eaten, the water you have drunk, the air you are breathing. It gets sick against your will. It ages against your wishes, and it will one day cease to function. You can also observe your body. You can feel the sensations within it. In any relationship between an observer and an object, the observer cannot be the object it observes. Since you can observe your body, you cannot be your body. It is something you have, not something you are. Second, there are our feelings, or sensations. These are the raw experiences of pleasure, pain, and neutrality that arise whenever our senses make contact with the world. Are you your feelings? Think of a moment of great joy. If you were that joy, what would happen when the joy faded? You would cease to exist. Think of a moment of intense pain. If you were that pain, you would be trapped in it forever. But we know this is not true. Feelings are like weather patterns, constantly arising and passing away. You are the awareness in which the feeling of pleasure or pain appears. You are the one who knows, this is a pleasant feeling, or this is an unpleasant feeling. Therefore, you cannot be the fleeting feeling itself. Third, there are our perceptions. This is the faculty of the mind that recognizes, labels, and interprets. It sees a collection of colors and shapes and says, that is a tree. It feels a certain sensation and labels it anxiety. Are you your perceptions? Like feelings, perceptions are dependent on conditions. They can be mistaken. They change from moment to moment. You can be aware of your perceptions, watching them label and categorize your experience. Therefore, you cannot be your perceptions. Fourth, we have mental formations. This is a vast and important category. It includes all of our thoughts, our beliefs, our opinions, our moods, our habits, our intentions, and our volitions. This is where most of us locate our sense of self. We believe we are our thoughts, our intellect, our personality. But are you your thoughts? Thoughts appear in the mind, often unbidden, and then they disappear. If you were your thoughts, you would be a different person with every new thought. Your beliefs and opinions also change over time. The person you were 10 years ago had different opinions than you do today. You can watch your own thoughts. You can witness your own opinions arise. Therefore, you cannot be these fleeting mental formations. Finally, there is consciousness, the raw faculty of knowing. There is seeing consciousness, hearing consciousness, smelling consciousness, and so on. This is the most subtle aspect. But is there a single, continuous consciousness that is you? The teachings suggest that consciousness, too, is an impersonal process. It arises only when there is an object to be known and a sense organ to connect them. Seeing consciousness arises because of an object and the eye. It is not the same as hearing consciousness. There is no single, permanent CEO in the mind. no central controller behind it all. Consciousness itself is a flickering, dependent process. So, if we are not our body, not our feelings, not our perceptions, not our thoughts, and not our consciousness, then what are we? This is where the great mystery and liberation lie. The self that we cherish and protect is not a solid, independent entity. It is a story, a concept, a convenient label we apply to the ever-changing flow of these 5 processes. It is a useful convention for navigating the world, but it has no ultimate, separate reality. There is a famous dialogue from the Buddhist texts that illustrates this perfectly. A wise monk named Nagasena was questioned by a Greek king, Melinda. The king asked, "What is your name?" The monk replied, "I am known as Nagasena, but this is just a designation, a name. There is no permanent person to be found here." The king was bewildered and began to question him, using the analogy of his own chariot. "If there is no person," the king argued, "then what is this I see before me?" Nagasena then asked the king, "Your Majesty, what is a chariot? Is it the wheels?" The king said, "No." "Is it the axle, the frame, the reins?" The king answered no to each question. "Then, is the chariot all of these parts combined?" The king again said no. "Is it something separate from all these parts?" "No, venerable sir." Nagasena then declared, "Then, Your Majesty, I cannot see what this chariot is." Chariot is simply a name, a convenient label we give to this particular assembly of parts. When the parts are arranged in this way, we call it a chariot. But there is no separate, intrinsic chariotness to be found. He then concluded, in the same way, Nagasena is just a convenient name for the collection of body, feelings, perceptions, thoughts, and consciousness. There is no permanent, unchanging self to be found within this process. To see this is to be freed from the heaviest burden we carry. The ego, this constructed sense of I, is a tireless and anxious manager. It must constantly be defended from criticism. It must be promoted and propped up with achievements. It is terrified of its own demise. The ego is the source of the thought, "What will happen to me?" It is the source of the anger that says, "I have been wronged." It is the source of the anxiety that asks, "Will I be good enough?" When we begin to see, even for a moment, that this solid self is an illusion, a story, the whole structure of our anxiety begins to soften. There is no one to defend. There is no one to be permanently flawed. There is simply a natural, impersonal process of life unfolding. This is not the destruction of you. It is the discovery of what you truly are, a seamless, interconnected part of the whole universe. You are not a separate wave, terrified of crashing on the shore. You are the entire ocean, temporarily taking the form of a wave. Seeing this, we can begin to live with more courage, more lightness, more spontaneity. When there is no fragile me at the center of our universe that needs to be constantly protected, we can finally relax. We can finally be at peace. This profound understanding of the selfless nature of experience allows us to look at our lives in a new way. If there is no fixed doer behind our actions, then what is the relationship between an action and its result? This insight lays the foundation for a truly wise understanding of the natural law of cause and effect. Having glimpsed the profound truth of anatta, the selfless, flowing nature of our experience, we may be left with a sense of wonder and perhaps a question. If there is no fixed, solid self at the center of our lives, no permanent doer behind our deeds, then what becomes of responsibility? How are we to understand the connection between what we do and what we experience? The resolution to this apparent paradox lies in understanding one of the most powerful and often misunderstood laws of nature, the law of karma. To many in the modern world, the word karma conjures images of a cosmic system of reward and punishment, a kind of mystical scorekeeping that dictates our destiny. But this is a distortion. The true teaching of karma is not about fate or predestination. In fact, it is the very opposite. It is the teaching of our ultimate freedom and our profound power to shape our own reality. The word karma, or karma, in the Pali language, literally means action. More specifically, it refers to volitional action. It is the intention, the will, the conscious choice that precedes what we do, what we say, and even what we think. Karma is not something that happens to you. It is what you are doing in every single moment. It is not a sentence handed down by an external judge, but a natural law of cause and effect, as impersonal and reliable as the law of gravity. If you release an apple from your hand, it will fall to the ground. That is not a punishment. It is simply the nature of things. In the same way, when you perform an action with a certain intention, it will produce a result of a similar quality. That is not a reward. It is simply the nature of the mind. This law operates most intimately in the one place we have direct access to, the garden of our own mind. Every thought we think, every word we speak, every action we take is like planting a seed. Actions that are rooted in what the teachings call unwholesome states of greed, hatred, envy, and delusion are like planting seeds of poison ivy. When we spend our day rehearsing arguments in our head, dwelling on past resentments, or indulging in anxious fantasies about the future, we are actively sowing these seeds of agitation. We are watering the weeds of ill will and confusion. Is it any wonder then that when we lie down at night and the outer world grows quiet, the harvest that springs from this garden is one of restlessness, anxiety, and discontent? The agitated state of our mind at night is not a random affliction. It is the direct, natural fruit of the seeds we have been planting all day long. Conversely, actions that are rooted in wholesome states of generosity, loving kindness, compassion, and wisdom are like planting seeds of nourishing fruit trees. When we make a conscious effort during our day to cultivate gratitude, to practice forgiveness, to speak kindly to others, and to meet our own experience with mindfulness, we are sowing seeds of peace. The mental energy of these intentions does not simply vanish. It conditions the mind, creating pathways of clarity and calm. The peace we experience at night is the natural harvest of these wholesome seeds. The feeling of safety in our hearts is the fruit of the seeds of loving kindness we planted. The feeling of contentment is the fruit of the seeds of gratitude. Imagine a farmer standing at the edge of a field. This field is her mind. In her hands, she holds 2 bags of seeds. One bag contains the seeds of weeds and thorns, anger, jealousy, greed, and fear. The other bag contains the seeds of beautiful flowers and nourishing food, patience, generosity, compassion, and understanding. The farmer who spends her day walking up and down the rows, scattering handfuls of the weed seeds, cannot then return to her field at sunset and be angry that it has not produced a crop of sweet corn. This would be utterly illogical. The field has simply and honestly produced a harvest that reflects what was sown in it. We are all this farmer. Every moment of our lives, we are standing at the edge of the field of our mind, choosing which seeds to plant. If we spend our day scattering the seeds of anxious thoughts, replaying worries, and focusing on what is wrong with the world, we cannot then lie down on our pillow and demand that the field of our mind miraculously produce a harvest of deep, restful peace. Our state of mind in the quiet of the night is the most honest feedback we can receive about the quality of the seeds we have been sowing. This understanding is incredibly empowering. It means we are not helpless victims of our moods or our anxiety. We are the cultivators of our own experience. This law of karma places the power of our lives squarely back into our own hands. The past has certainly happened. The seeds sown yesterday and the day before have created the conditions of today. They determine the kind of field we are working with right now. Perhaps the soil is rocky, with old habits, or depleted from years of neglect. We cannot change the conditions we have inherited from our own past actions. But what we can change, with absolute freedom, is what we choose to do in this very moment. In this present moment, you have the complete power to decide which seeds you will plant. You can choose to stop watering the familiar weeds of resentment and fear. You can choose, right now, to plant a single, tiny seed of kindness. You can choose to plant a seed of forgiveness. You can choose to plant a seed of mindfulness by returning your attention to your breath. Each of these small conscious choices is a powerful act of karma that begins to change the landscape of your mind and therefore to change your future. The peaceful sleep you long for is not created by a technique you apply for 10 minutes before bed. It is the culmination of a day lived with mindful intention. And because, as we have seen, there is no truly separate self, our actions do not exist in a vacuum. They are ripples cast into the vast, interconnected pond of life. An act of anger can ripple out from us and cause pain to another, who may then pass that pain on to someone else. An unthinking, critical comment can lodge in someone's mind and become a seed of their own self-doubt. But just as surely, an act of kindness can ripple outward with immense power. A simple, genuine smile, an act of generosity, a moment of deep listening, these wholesome actions can brighten someone's day, and they, in turn, may be inspired to share that light with others. Understanding karma, then, cultivates a profound sense of responsibility, not as a heavy burden, but as a joyful recognition of our interconnectedness. The peace we cultivate in our own heart becomes a gift we offer to the world. So, karma is not fate. It is the law of creative action. It tells us that we are the artists of our own lives. The primary colors on our palette are our intentions, and the canvas is our mind. The peace we seek is not a distant destination, but a harvest we can begin to cultivate right now, with the very next seed we choose to plant. This naturally leads us to a very practical and important inquiry. If our actions are so powerful, what constitutes a skillful action? How do we best interact with the world in a way that sows these seeds of peace and well-being, both for ourselves and for others? This question brings us to the heart of ethical living as a spiritual practice. Having come to understand the powerful and impersonal law of karma, recognizing that our volitional actions are the very seeds of our future happiness or suffering, we are faced with a deeply practical question. How do we apply this understanding in the midst of our ordinary, busy, and often complicated lives? How do we ensure that the seeds we are sowing from morning until evening are the seeds of peace, clarity, and well-being? The path to inner peace is not found by retreating from the world, but by learning to engage with it skillfully and mindfully. The tranquility we seek at night is born from the integrity with which we live during the day. This is the practice of bringing mindfulness off the cushion and weaving it into the very fabric of our speech, our actions, and our work. Let us first consider the immense power of our speech. Our words are not just empty sounds. They are potent, energetic events that create our reality. They have the power to build trust or to destroy it, to soothe a heart or to inflict a deep wound, to create harmony or to sow discord. The quality of our speech throughout the day has a direct and profound impact on the quality of our mind as we lay our head on the pillow. The teachings refer to this practice as right speech, which involves both an understanding of what to avoid and what to cultivate. First, it is the practice of speaking truthfully. This means more than just avoiding outright lies. It means speaking with authenticity and sincerity, avoiding the subtle exaggerations we use to make ourselves look better, or the convenient omissions we use to mislead. When our words are aligned with the truth, our inner world becomes simple, clear, and free from the stress of maintaining falsehoods. We no longer need to remember which story we told to which person. There is a deep peace in this integrity. Second, right speech means refraining from words that are harsh or abusive. This includes not only shouting in anger, but also the more subtle forms of verbal violence, sarcasm that has a sting, belittling comments disguised as jokes, and constant criticism. These words are like poison-tipped arrows. They wound the person they are aimed at, but they are forged in the fire of our own mind, and that fire inevitably leaves us, the speaker, feeling agitated and burned. A mind that has spent the day generating the heat of harsh speech cannot easily cool down into a state of restful peace. Third, this practice involves abstaining from divisive speech. This is the speech of gossip, slander, and rumor-mongering, words spoken behind someone's back with the intention of damaging their reputation or setting one person against another. When we engage in gossip, we may feel a temporary, small thrill of being an insider, but we are filling our own mind with the energies of negativity, suspicion, and discord. We are planting seeds of separation in the world, and that separation will be reflected in our own sense of alienation and unease. And finally, right speech means avoiding speech that is useless or idle. This is not a call to be perpetually silent, but an invitation to be mindful of our communication. So much of our conversation can be a kind of nervous, energy-draining chatter that serves no real purpose other than to fill the silence. By speaking more mindfully and purposefully, we conserve our own energy and create a more peaceful inner environment. The positive cultivation of right speech can be beautifully summarized by a simple filter we can apply before we speak. We can pause and ask ourselves 3 questions. Is what I am about to say true? Is it necessary? And is it kind? If the answer to all 3 is yes, then our speech is likely to be a source of benefit, both for others and for our own peace of mind. From our speech, we broaden our awareness to our physical actions. Right action, in its essence, is guided by the principle of non-harming. At its most basic level, it means refraining from taking the life of any living being and from causing intentional physical harm. It is the practice of moving through the world with a gentle presence rather than an aggressive one. It also means refraining from taking that which is not freely given. This is not just about the obvious act of stealing. It is about a deeper integrity, not cheating in business, not exploiting the trust of others, not taking more than our fair share. It is a practice that cultivates a mind of contentment and honesty, a mind that has no need to look over its shoulder in fear. Lastly, right action guides us toward relationships built on respect and care, refraining from sexual conduct that is exploitative or causes emotional harm to ourselves or others. The underlying principle is simple and clear. Actions that cause harm to other beings inevitably create ripples that disturb our own heart. A mind clouded by guilt, shame, or fear resulting from its actions during the day, will not find it easy to settle into the vulnerability and stillness required for deep rest. We can then extend this ethical mindfulness to the area where we spend so much of our time and energy, our work. Right livelihood is the recognition that our spiritual life and our professional life are not separate. We cannot spend 8 hours a day engaged in work that contradicts our deepest values and then expect to feel whole and peaceful in the evening. At its most fundamental, this means avoiding professions that are directly built upon causing harm, such as those involved in violence, deception, or the trade of poisons or intoxicants. For most of us, however, the practice is more subtle. It is about bringing a conscious, ethical intention to the work that we do. Are we dealing with our customers and colleagues honestly? Is our work contributing something of value to society? Or is it merely promoting mindless consumerism or creating division? Are we working in a way that respects our own well-being and the well-being of those around us? To be engaged in work that feels meaningful and that is aligned with our wish to cause no harm is one of the most powerful ways to create a life of integrity and coherence. A mind that is at peace with how it has spent its day is a mind that can rest deeply at night. The peace we seek is a holistic quality. It is like a beautiful, hand-woven tapestry. Our time in quiet reflection or meditation is one kind of thread, perhaps smooth and golden. But the tapestry is not made of this thread alone. It is also woven from the threads of our conversations, our emails, our daily chores, and our professional conduct. If these threads are jagged, tangled, and harsh, the overall tapestry of our life will be one of conflict and chaos, regardless of how beautiful our meditation thread might be. True, lasting peace is the result of weaving integrity and mindfulness into every aspect of our lives. It is not about achieving an impossible perfection, but about holding a sincere and constant intention to cause less harm, to cultivate more kindness, and to live in alignment with our own deepest wisdom. Living in this mindful and ethical way requires a particular quality of mind. It requires a mind that is not rigid, not dogmatic, and not convinced that it already has all the answers. To apply the filter of, is it true? Is it necessary? Is it kind? We must be willing to pause and see each situation with fresh eyes. To act with non-harming intention, we must be open to learning and sensitive to the subtle impact of our actions. This ability to approach life with a sense of openness, curiosity, and humility is a crucial skill on the path. This leads us to explore the profound wisdom of what is often called beginner's mind. Having explored the path of mindful living, learning to sow seeds of peace through our wholesome speech and actions, we come to recognize a subtle prerequisite for such skillful living. To respond to life with wisdom, rather than reacting from habit, we need a particular quality of mind. It is a mind that is not hardened by its own knowledge, not trapped in the prisons of its own opinions, but is instead soft, open, curious, and willing to learn in every moment. This is the profound and simple wisdom of what is often called beginner's mind. In our culture, we tend to value the expert. The expert's mind is full. It is filled with facts, with theories, with past experiences, and with firm conclusions. When it encounters a new situation, it does not see it with fresh eyes. Instead, it quickly sorts it into a pre-existing category based on its vast library of knowledge. Oh, this is just another case of that. This mind is efficient, but it is also closed. It has very little room for new learning, for wonder, or for unexpected solutions. It is a full cup, and nothing more can be poured into it. The beginner's mind, on the other hand, is empty. It is not empty in the sense of being ignorant or vacant, but empty in the sense of being open and receptive. It is the mind that is willing to say the three most freeing words in any language: I don't know. It approaches experience without a filter of preconceived notions. For the expert, the possibilities are few. For the beginner, the possibilities are endless. There is a classic Zen story that illustrates this principle perfectly. A highly educated university professor, a man who had dedicated his life to studying philosophies and religions, went to visit a wise old Zen master to inquire about the nature of Zen. He arrived at the master's simple home and immediately began to speak, showcasing his immense intellectual knowledge. He spoke of intricate doctrines, compared complex theories, and quoted ancient texts, all without pausing to take a breath. The Zen master listened patiently and invited the professor to have a cup of tea. As the professor continued to talk, the master began to pour tea into his guest's cup. He filled the cup to the brim, but then he did not stop. The hot tea began to overflow, spilling into the saucer and then onto the table. The professor, startled, jumped back and cried out, "Stop! What are you doing? The cup is already full. No more can go in." The Zen master stopped pouring, looked calmly at the professor, and said, "You are like this cup. You are so full of your own opinions and speculations that there is no room for anything new. How can I show you anything of Zen unless you first empty your cup?" This story points directly to a state we all find ourselves in, especially when we are struggling. We become experts on our own suffering. This is particularly true when it comes to the challenge of finding rest. Many of us approach our beds at night, not with a beginner's mind, but with the full and overflowing cup of an expert. We carry with us the entire library of our past sleepless nights. We lie down with the firm conviction, the expert opinion, that says, "I am a bad sleeper. Tonight is going to be another difficult night of tossing and turning. It's happened 1,000 times before, and it will happen again tonight." This story, this belief, is the full cup, and it becomes a terribly effective, self-fulfilling prophecy. The belief itself creates the very tension and anxiety that prevents sleep from arriving. The fear of not sleeping becomes the monster that guards the gates of sleep. The practice of beginner's mind is a gentle invitation to empty this cup. It is the choice to approach this night, this very experience of lying down to rest, as if it were the very first time. Let go of the story of all your other nights. Let go of the identity of being a bad sleeper. Meet your pillow as if you have never felt one before. Feel the texture of the blankets. Notice the quality of the darkness. Listen to the sounds of the night, all with a sense of fresh, open curiosity. You don't know what will happen. You are not the expert on this night, because this night has never happened before. This simple act of not knowing is profoundly relaxing. It releases the immense pressure of expectation and opens up the possibility for a new and different experience to unfold. We can extend this practice to the many other limiting stories we tell about ourselves. We walk around with cups filled to the brim with identities that we believe are solid and permanent. I am an anxious person. I am not a patient person. I am the kind of person who gets angry easily. These labels, which are built from the accumulated memories of our past actions, become rigid containers that define and confine us. Beginner's mind is the willingness to gently set these labels aside, just for this moment. In this moment, as you breathe in and out, are you fundamentally an anxious person, or are you simply an awareness that is experiencing the changing sensations of anxiety? The label is the full cup, solid and unchanging. The direct experience is fluid and impermanent. By letting go of the story, you give yourself the freedom to be something new in the very next moment. When we are willing to empty our cup, to let go of our certainty and our old stories, we create a space for new wisdom to enter. When we stop insisting that we know the answer, a real solution, often one we never could have imagined, has room to appear. It is the mind that is humble, open, and receptive that is most creative and resourceful. It is able to see the world with a sense of wonder and delight, rather than with the jaded eyes of an expert who has seen it all before. True wisdom is not found in accumulating more and more knowledge, but in cultivating the ability to see the world with the fresh, bright, and boundless eyes of a beginner. This, then, is the wisdom of the empty cup. It is the courage to release our grip on what we think we know. It is the humility to approach our own lives with a sense of curiosity and awe. It creates a spaciousness within us, a receptive silence where we can truly listen, both to the world and to our own deeper intuition. Having explored this art of emptying, of making our inner home clean and spacious, we are now perfectly poised to explore two of the most beautiful and healing ways to furnish that home. We can now see how to fill that empty cup, not with old opinions, but with the life-giving waters of forgiveness and gratitude. Having emptied our cup with the wisdom of beginner's mind, letting go of our rigid stories and preconceived notions, we create a precious, quiet space within. We are now more able to see what we might still be holding on to deep inside that cup. Often, what remains are the heavy stones of old hurts, the bitter residue of past resentments. Before we can truly fill our inner home with peace, we must undertake the courageous and profoundly healing work of sweeping out these old grievances. This is the practice of forgiveness. It is perhaps one of the most misunderstood of all spiritual practices. We often see it as a moral duty, a favor we are granting to the person who hurt us. But this is not its true purpose. Forgiveness is not a gift you give to someone else. It is the ultimate gift of freedom and peace that you give to yourself. There is a powerful teaching that compares holding on to anger to holding a hot coal in your hand, with the intention of throwing it at someone else. We stand there, our fist clenched around this burning ember, convinced that our anger is our weapon, that it is somehow punishing the person who wronged us. But while we wait for the perfect moment to throw it, who is being burned? The heat is searing our own flesh. The pain is in our own hand. Our anger, our resentment, our bitterness, these are hot coals that consume our own energy, poison our own mind, and utterly destroy our own peace. The other person may be miles away, completely unaware of the turmoil we are putting ourselves through. We are the sole prisoner of our own resentment. Forgiveness is the wise, compassionate, and logical act of simply opening our hand and letting the hot coal drop. It is absolutely crucial to understand what forgiveness is not. Forgiveness does not mean that you are condoning or excusing the harmful action that took place. The hurt was real. The pain was valid. Forgiveness is not pretending that what happened was okay. It is not about letting someone off the hook. It is about letting yourself off the hook. Forgiveness does not necessarily mean reconciliation. It does not mean you must now befriend the person who hurt you, or even allow them back into your life, especially if they are a continued source of harm. You can forgive someone completely, while also making the wise decision to keep a safe distance. And forgiveness is not the same as forgetting. The memory of the event may well remain, but forgiveness changes your relationship to that memory. It is the act of draining the poison from the story, so that when the memory arises, it no longer has the power to wound you, to hijack your nervous system, and to steal your peace. It becomes just a story, a scar from a wound that has finally healed. Let us explore, gently, what this practice might feel like. You can bring to mind someone who has caused you pain. It is often wise to start with a smaller hurt, rather than the deepest wound of your life. Bring their face or the situation to your mind, and allow yourself to acknowledge, honestly and without shame, the pain that you felt. You can say silently in your own heart, "That action caused me deep pain. I was hurt. I was frightened. I was betrayed." Give yourself this gift of validation. Your pain is real. Now, see if you can acknowledge the burden of carrying the resentment connected to this pain. You might say to yourself, "I have been carrying the weight of this anger for a long time. I can feel how it hardens my heart. I can see how it uses my energy. I can feel how it disturbs my peace, especially at night." This is the recognition of the hot coal in your hand. And then you can form an intention. This is not about forcing a feeling, but about planting a seed of willingness. You can say, "For the sake of my own well-being, for the health of my own heart, I am willing to begin the process of letting this go. I am doing this for me." And finally, you can offer the words, "As best you can, to the best of my ability today, I offer you my forgiveness." You can imagine cutting a cord that has bound you to that person and that event. With this act, you are not freeing them, you are freeing yourself. Often, the most difficult person to forgive is the one we see in the mirror. We are our own harshest jailers, holding ourselves captive for mistakes we made years or even decades ago. We carry a heavy burden of guilt and shame, believing that our past actions define us forever. But the person you were 5, 10, or 20 years ago no longer exists. You acted from the level of wisdom, understanding, and consciousness that you possessed at that time. If you knew then what you know now, you would have acted differently. To hold your past self as a permanent hostage to guilt is a profound act of cruelty. The practice of self-forgiveness is much the same. You can bring to mind an action you regret, acknowledge the action and any harm it may have caused, without making excuses. Then, try to connect with the person you were back then. See the confusion, the fear, the pain, or the ignorance that may have motivated that action. Have compassion for that past version of yourself. And then you can offer the words, "I have carried the burden of this guilt for long enough. It does not serve me, and it does not serve anyone I may have harmed. Knowing what I know now, I have learnt from this. I offer myself my own unconditional forgiveness." This is an act of profound grace, allowing yourself to re-enter the present moment, free from the chains of a past you cannot change. The connection between forgiveness and peaceful sleep is direct and powerful. To go to bed with a heart full of resentment is like trying to sleep on a bed of sharp stones. The mind cannot rest because it is busy being a warrior. It endlessly rehearses old arguments. It relives betrayals. It plots revenge. The body cannot relax because the nervous system is locked in a state of high alert, a low-grade fight-or-flight response. The heart cannot be at peace because it is constricted and hardened by bitterness. To practice forgiveness is to systematically and patiently remove these sharp stones from your bed, one by one. It is to declare a ceasefire in your own inner war. It is to create a soft, safe, and peaceful surface upon which you can finally lay your head and truly rest. Forgiveness, then, is the great spring cleaning of the heart. It is the courageous act of choosing freedom over being right, of choosing peace over the painful satisfaction of grievance. It does not change the past, but it radically transforms the future by liberating your present moment from the baggage you have been carrying. As you let go of these heavy burdens, You will feel a lightness, a spaciousness, a sense of profound relief. The heart that was constricted by pain can now open. Now that we have released what is heavy and painful, we can turn our attention to the final practice for preparing the mind for sleep. We can consciously choose to fill this newly created space not with what we lack or what has been taken from us, but with a deep and gentle appreciation for what is good, what is present, and what supports us. We turn now from the release of forgiveness to the warm embrace of gratitude. Having cleansed the heart of its heaviest burdens through the courageous act of forgiveness, we are left with a feeling of lightness, a fresh and open inner space. We have let go of the hot coals of resentment and the heavy stones of past regrets. The house of our mind is clean. Now, we arrive at the final, gentle practice of preparing for rest, the art of furnishing this clean and open home with the warmth and beauty of gratitude. If forgiveness is the act of removing the sharp stones from our bed, then gratitude is the act of fluffing the pillows, smoothing the sheets, and recognizing the profound comfort and safety of having a bed at all. It is the practice of attuning our mind not to what is wrong, but to what is right, not to what we lack, but to what we have. Our minds, for very good evolutionary reasons, have a built-in negativity bias. Our ancestors' survival depended on being hyper-aware of potential threats, the rustle in the grass, the crack of a twig. Their brains were like Velcro for negative experiences, holding onto them tightly, and like Teflon for positive experiences, letting them slide right off. This ancient survival mechanism is still active within us, but in our modern world, it often causes more harm than good. It means that a single critical comment can outweigh a dozen compliments. It means that at the end of the day, our minds will naturally drift toward the one thing that went wrong, the one problem we haven't solved, the one worry that remains. This bias keeps us in a state of low-grade anxiety and discontent. Gratitude is not a naive attempt to ignore life's problems. It is a conscious and skillful training of the mind to counteract this innate negativity bias. It is the intentional act of looking for the good, a practice that, with time, can rewire our brains for happiness and peace. The practice of gratitude, especially before sleep, is beautifully simple. It does not require great effort or grand gestures. It requires only a gentle shift in attention. Lying here, in the quiet of this moment, I invite you to let your mind drift back over the course of your day. But instead of scanning for mistakes or unfinished tasks, I invite you to become a treasure hunter, searching for small, overlooked moments of goodness. The treasures you are looking for are often very simple. Perhaps it was the taste of your first cup of coffee or tea this morning, the warmth of the liquid in your hands. Perhaps it was the feeling of sunshine on your face for a few moments, or the comforting sound of rain on the roof. Maybe it was a kind word from a colleague, an unexpected smile from a stranger, or the simple joy of hearing a favorite song. You don't need to find a long list of things. Just find three small treasures from your day. For each one, don't just note it mentally, like an item on a shopping list. Take a moment to truly bring it back to life. If it was a kind word, hear the sound of the person's voice again. Feel the warmth that it sparked in your chest. If it was a delicious meal, remember the tastes and textures. Feel the satisfaction it brought. Let the feeling of appreciation, the feeling of gratitude, actually arise in your body. Let it be a felt sense of warmth, of fullness, of gentle contentment. This is what transforms it from an intellectual exercise into a deep conditioning of the heart. From these specific moments, we can expand our gratitude to include the things that are so constant, we often render them invisible. Bring your attention, for a moment, to the simple fact of your body. Without any conscious command from you, your heart is beating, faithfully pumping life through your entire being. Your lungs are breathing, drawing in the air that sustains you. Your senses are working, allowing you to perceive the world. What an incredible, intricate, and intelligent system it is. We so often only notice our bodies when they are in pain, but for a moment, can we feel a sense of gratitude for all the silent, miraculous work the body is doing right now to keep us alive? And what about this very bed you are lying in? Feel the support beneath you, the softness of the pillows, the warmth of the blankets. There is a profound comfort and safety in this simple experience, a basic human need for shelter and rest being met. For many people in the world, this simple comfort is an unattainable luxury. To take a moment to feel genuine gratitude for the safety and shelter of your bed is to recognize an immense privilege, an incredible gift that we so easily take for granted. There is a simple, old story that perfectly illustrates this power of perspective. A man was walking through a town, his heart heavy with self-pity. He was complaining bitterly to himself about his life, and his main focus today was on the fact that he was poor and had no shoes. He saw others with fine shoes and felt a deep sense of injustice and lack. As he walked, lost in this sorrowful story, he passed a man sitting by the side of the road. This other man had a peaceful smile on his face, and he was basking in the afternoon sun. And the first man noticed that this peaceful, smiling man had no feet. In that single, shocking instant, his entire reality shifted. His own problem, the lack of shoes, suddenly seemed utterly insignificant. His heart was flooded with a profound and overwhelming sense of gratitude for the 2 healthy feet that he had been complaining with just moments before. The practice of gratitude is this intentional shift of perspective. It is the conscious choice to stop focusing on the shoes we don't have and to feel a deep appreciation for the feet that we do. Most of us end our day in a state of what could be called lack. We review our day and see what we didn't accomplish. We think about our problems, and then we make a to-do list for tomorrow, priming our minds for another day of striving. We go to sleep from a place of insufficiency. This is a recipe for an anxious night. The practice of gratitude completely reverses this. It is the act of consciously ending your day from a place of sufficiency. By reviewing what you are thankful for, you are marinating your mind in a feeling of fullness, of abundance, of contentment. You are gently communicating to your nervous system that, at least for this moment, all is well. You are safe. You are provided for. You have enough. This feeling of sufficiency is the softest pillow upon which your mind can rest. So, as we prepare for sleep, let us make this our final meditation. Let us count our blessings, not our burdens. Forgiveness has cleared away the debts of the past. Gratitude appreciates the gifts of the present. With a heart that is now lighter, clearer, and warmer, we have built a new inner foundation, one of resilience and gentle strength. We are no longer defined solely by our problems or our grievances. From this place of greater inner resource, we can now learn to approach the inevitable challenges and difficulties of life, not as a fragile victim, but with the courage, balance, and wisdom of a peaceful warrior. Having journeyed through the landscapes of the heart, having practiced the arts of letting go, forgiveness, and gratitude, we now arrive at a place of integration. These are not just isolated techniques to be used in moments of distress. They are the foundational training for an entirely new way of meeting your life. They are the skills that forge the mind and heart of a peaceful warrior. This term, warrior, may seem out of place in a talk about peace, but the warrior we speak of does not wage war on the external world. The peaceful warrior's courage is turned inward. Their battlefield is their own mind, and their sword is the light of their own awareness. The enemies this warrior faces are not other people or difficult circumstances. The true enemies are the timeless inner forces that create all of our suffering. They are what the Buddhist tradition calls the three poisons. The first is greed and craving, the relentless inner pull of, I want more, the insatiable thirst that is never quenched. The second is hatred and aversion, the violent inner push of, I don't want this, the resistance and anger that arises when reality does not conform to our desires. And the third, the root of the other two, is delusion or ignorance, the fundamental confusion about the nature of reality, the misunderstanding that sees the self as solid and permanent, and that believes happiness can be found in fleeting things. The peaceful warrior's lifelong campaign is not to violently annihilate these forces, but to meet them with mindfulness, to understand their nature, and in doing so, to gently release their power over us. The strength of this warrior is not the brittle strength of a clenched fist or a hardened heart. It is not the strength of someone who is invulnerable, who never feels pain, or who never makes a mistake. That is a fantasy. The peaceful warrior's strength is a resilient, flexible strength, like that of a bamboo that bends in the wind, but does not break. It is not the strength of never falling down. Life, with its unpredictable currents, will inevitably knock us off our feet. True strength is found in the way we get back up. The untrained mind gets up with self-recrimination. I can't believe I failed again. I'm so weak. This is the second arrow we fire at ourselves after the fall. The peaceful warrior, having trained in self-compassion, gets up with kindness. They get up with patience. They get up with the quiet understanding that falling is simply part of the process of learning to walk a new path. Every fall becomes an opportunity to practice a gentle and compassionate return. This shift in perspective transforms our entire relationship with difficulty. The conventional mind sees a challenger conflict at work, a frightening health diagnosis, a painful losses, a disaster, an unwelcome interruption to the peace it is seeking. The peaceful warrior learns to see these challenges as their curriculum, as their training ground. Life's difficulties are not obstacles on the path. They are the path. A difficult person is no longer just an irritant. They are a master teacher of patience. A moment of intense anxiety is no longer a personal failure. It is a powerful opportunity to practice returning to the anchor of the breath and finding our center. A great disappointment is no longer just a source of bitterness. It is a profound lesson in the art of letting go. Life, seen through this lens, is no longer a series of problems to be solved or avoided, but a rich and potent training ground for awakening. Let us make this practical. Imagine you are facing a stressful situation, such as an important meeting or a difficult conversation. The untrained mind is immediately swept away by the storm of anxiety. It gets lost in catastrophic future thinking. What if I say the wrong thing? What if they react badly? This is going to be a disaster. The body follows suit with a racing heart, a tightened stomach, and shallow breathing. The person becomes one with their fear. The peaceful warrior, when faced with the same situation, still feels the arising of these physical sensations. The heart may still beat faster. Adrenaline may still flow. They are human, but their relationship to the experience is completely different. First, they notice the sensations with mindfulness. Ah, this is the feeling of anxiety in the body. They don't fuse with it. They see it as a temporary weather pattern. Second, they remember their anchor. They intentionally bring their attention to their breath, not to force the anxiety away, but to ground themselves in the present moment and to soothe their nervous system. Third, they practice self-compassion. They might say to themselves, "It's okay to feel this way. This is a normal human response to a stressful situation." They offer themselves kindness instead of judgment. Fourth, they connect with their intention. They let go of trying to control the outcome of the meeting and instead focus on what they can control, their own conduct. Their intention might be, "May I be present, may I listen well, and may I speak truthfully and kindly." They enter the situation not from a place of desperate fear, but from a center of quiet strength and integrity. They bring their peace into the storm. This is the ultimate promise of this path. It is not the promise of a life free from storms. The winds of change will always blow. There will be loss. There will be sickness. There will be moments of pain. To seek a life where these things never happen is to seek the impossible. The great liberation is not in controlling the weather, but in discovering an unshakable stillness within yourself. It is the discovery of the eye of the hurricane. While the winds howl and the world spins chaotically around you, you find a place of deep, profound quiet at your very core. This is true peace. It is not dependent on your external circumstances being calm and pleasant. It is a peace that you carry within you, a portable sanctuary, a resilience of the heart that can meet any of life's challenges with grace and courage. This is the mind of the peaceful warrior. It is a mind that has been tempered by wisdom and softened by compassion. It is a heart that has been cleared by forgiveness and warmed by gratitude. It is a way of being that no longer sees the world as a threat, but as a place to practice, to learn, and to love. After all this training, after all this cultivation, after all the patient effort of meeting life with this new kind of awareness, there is only one thing left to do. When the day is done and the warrior's work is complete, it is time to lay down all the tools. It is time to let go of all the concepts, all the techniques, and all the effort. It is time for the final and most simple act of our journey tonight, the silent, healing return to our own essential nature. The journey of the peaceful warrior is complete for today. The inner battles have been met not with force, but with awareness. The heart has been trained not in aggression, but in tenderness. The mind has been disciplined not through struggle, but through gentle, patient understanding. And now, the warrior's final and wisest act is to lay down all their weapons. It is time to take off the armor of concepts, to sheathe the sword of analysis, and to simply rest. We have journeyed through many ideas tonight, exploring the nature of our minds, our hearts, and our experiences. But all of these teachings, all of these practices, all of these words are like fingers pointing at the moon. They are not the moon itself. Now is the time to forget the finger and to simply gaze at the moon. And the moon is the vast, luminous, and profound silence that is your own true nature. There is nothing left for you to do. There are no more techniques to master, no more concepts to understand, no more memories to process. The time for doing is over. The time for simply being has arrived. All effort can now be released. Allow your mind, which has been working so diligently, to finally come to rest. You have spent your whole day thinking, planning, remembering, and analyzing. Now, you can give your mind permission to be quiet. You can let go of the need to figure anything out. You can release the desire to solve any problems. Whatever is unfinished can wait for the morning. Whatever is unresolved can be left just as it is. For these next moments, there is only this: resting. Gently, shift your attention from the world of thinking to the world of sensing. Become aware of the sounds around you. You do not need to label them. You do not need to identify them as a car passing or the hum of a refrigerator. Simply receive the vibrations of sound as they arise and pass away in your awareness. And listen even more deeply, not for the sounds, but for the silence that holds them. Can you hear the silence that is behind all the noises? It is not an empty void. It is a rich, full, and living silence. It is the vast, quiet canvas upon which all the sounds of the world are painted. Let your attention rest in this deep, background silence. It is always here. It is your ultimate refuge. Now, bring your awareness to the feeling of space. Feel the space that your body occupies in the room. Feel the space between your body and the walls. Feel the vastness of the space outside your home, reaching up into the night sky. And now, feel the inner space of your own mind. We often think of our mind as a small, cramped box inside our skull, cluttered with endless thoughts. But see if you can feel it differently now. See if you can sense the mind as a vast, open, limitless sky. Thoughts may still drift through it, like distant, wispy clouds, but you are no longer paying them any attention. Your focus is on the vast, open, peaceful, sky-like nature of awareness itself. This spaciousness is your true home. It is never harmed by the clouds that pass through it. It is always peaceful, always present. Imagine your mind is like the great ocean. The surface of the ocean is often turbulent. It is stirred up by the winds of daily life, creating great waves of emotion, choppy ripples of thought, and currents of worry. We have spent our journey tonight learning to be skillful sailors on this surface. But now, I invite you to let yourself sink. Let go of the surface and allow your awareness to drift down, deeper and deeper, below the turbulence, down past the waves of emotion, down past the currents of memory and planning, down into the immense, silent depths of the ocean. In the deep ocean, there is a profound stillness. The storms that rage on the surface are a distant, forgotten memory. Down here, there is no sound, there is no agitation, there is only a deep, abiding, and powerful peace. The pressure here is immense, but it is not a crushing pressure. It is a steady, constant, holding presence. It is the feeling of being completely and safely held in the heart of a great mystery. This deep, silent, peaceful ocean is the true nature of your mind, your consciousness. It is always here, beneath the noisy surface of your everyday thoughts. Your only task now is to allow yourself to rest here, let go, and sink into your own silent depths. We often think we need to hunt for sleep, as if it is a prize to be won. We strive for it, we struggle with it, and our very effort pushes it further away. The desperate thought, "I must sleep," is the very thing that keeps the mind agitated and awake. Let go of this hunt. Let go of the goal of sleeping. Your only goal now is simply to rest. Rest in the silence. Rest in the spaciousness of your mind. Rest in the deep, peaceful ocean of your own being. Sleep is a natural surrender. It is not something you do, but something you allow to happen. When the mind is no longer fighting, when the heart is no longer striving, when the entire being is simply at rest in the quiet of this present moment, sleep will come in its own time. It will arrive like a gentle tide, to claim a mind and body that are finally, truly at peace. There is nothing to do, nowhere to go. Simply this breath, this silence, this peace. Rest now, rest. And so, our journey together for this night comes to a gentle close. We began in the restless quiet of a room, amidst the silent storm of the modern mind, feeling overwhelmed by the weight of a world that never sleeps. Together, we found the courage to turn inward, not to fight, but to understand. We looked honestly at the nature of our universal human experience, the feeling of unsatisfactoriness, of dukkha, and we saw it not as a personal failure, but as a compassionate diagnosis, the starting point for all healing. We discovered that the source of our deepest agitation comes from the thirst of our own mind, the clinging to what is pleasant, and the resistance to what is painful. We saw the futility of trying to control this inner world with force, and instead, we learned the gentle art of allowing. We found our most faithful friend and anchor in the simple, constant presence of the breath. With this anchor, we journeyed home to our bodies, listening to their quiet wisdom. We saw for ourselves the universal truth of impermanence, that all things arise and pass away, and in that wisdom, we found the courage to practice letting go of our heavy burdens. With the inner space we created, we began to cultivate a beautiful garden in our hearts. We planted the seeds of loving kindness, starting with the radical act of offering it to ourselves. We allowed that warmth to blossom into compassion, the heart's tender response to pain. We learned to delight in the joy of others, and we found the unshakable foundation of equanimity, the peaceful mountain that remains steady amidst all of life's winds. From this place of heartfelt balance, we ventured into the deepest wisdom, seeing that the solid self we work so hard to defend is but a story, and that our true nature is as vast and open as the sky. We understood our power to shape our lives through the seeds of our intentions, our karma, and the importance of living with mindful integrity. And finally, we cleansed the last corners of our heart with the healing waters of forgiveness, and we filled our entire being with the soft, gentle light of gratitude. If there is one thing to take with you into your dreams tonight, let it be this: the peace that you seek is not in a distant place. It is not a prize to be won or a future state to be achieved. It has been here all along. Peace is your fundamental nature. It is the deep, silent ocean that lies beneath the most turbulent waves of thought and emotion. It is the vast, clear sky that is unstained by the darkest clouds of fear or anger. All the practices we have explored are not tools to create this peace, but are simply ways of clearing away the dust and debris that have obscured the radiant peace that is already and always yours. You are not helpless before the currents of your own mind. You hold within you, right now, a profound capacity for healing and freedom. Your breath is your anchor, always available to bring you home to the present moment. Your heart is a boundless source of love, compassion, and joy. Your awareness is a sanctuary, a space of quiet that can never be harmed. Trust in these inner resources. Trust in your ability to return to this peace again and again. There is nothing more you need to do now. There is nothing to figure out. You have done enough. You are enough. Let go of this journey. Let go of these words and surrender to the silence. Surrender to the peace you have uncovered. May your rest be deep. May your sleep be healing. And may you awaken tomorrow with a clear mind, a gentle heart, and the quiet strength of a peaceful warrior. Rest now. Rest in peace.